Hello there, my friends. Welcome back to the Agostinho Zinga Show with your host, Agostinho Zinga, and this is episode number 749. That is Siete, Cuatro, Nueve of the Agostinho Zinga Show with me, your host, Agostinho Zinga. Hope you're well. I hope you are doing swimmingly. I'm doing pretty good right now. I'm recording this very early Monday morning, very late Sunday evening, depending on where you might be. I'm also recording this after United won 2-1 against Luton Town away from home. A terrible performance, but a really good result. I'm not really going to go into it right now. I'll probably talk about it in the next episode, so don't worry about that. If you guys are out there who hate some of my football commentary, I'll save that for the next episode. But whenever United win, even if the performance is terrible, it really does make me feel a lot better for the weekend. But this past weekend, I've been watching a lot of Mindhunter. Yes, you guessed it. The hit series from Netflix, which for some reason was cancelled or put on ice. I'm not really too sure why, but it legitimately was one of their best original quote-unquote series that they put out in maybe recent years. And I just remembered watching it back, the brilliance of Mindhunter and how brilliantly it kind of captured, encapsulated, personified, displayed that whole genre of true crime. It's kind of origin stages and people's obsession with serial killers and stuff, without being too celebratory of the serial killers themselves, highlighting some of the voices of the victims, talking about how difficult it was for police to kind of get a handle on the situation when it was first sort of like bubbling up in maybe, in the modern way, in the modern terms, because obviously the serial killers throughout the history of time, but in terms of the modern depiction of serial killers, that late 70s, 80s period, there was a lot of kind of, crazy things going on societally, politically, economically. That was, race tensions. All these things were kind of affecting the way that the police were doing their job. And just to put it frankly, police back then weren't that good. Police back then just weren't that good. They didn't have the resources. So a lot of people were able to get away with some really heinous crimes that you probably would never be able to get away with now. Sometimes I think about it similar to, like, I'm into the creative space. I'm into the creative scene. And there's this common held belief that art nowadays isn't as good as it once was in the 70s or the 80s, which is probably makes a lot of sense, right? Imagine first discovering 35mm film. Imagine first discovering 8mm film. Imagine first discovering, mixed media and all these kind of interesting performance and video art kind of processes that you can do to kind of put out your message or display your art or showcase it in any way. Doing it the first time, it's always going to feel electric as opposed to the, 1 millionth time down the road. So it makes sense. And there's also this adage that back in the day, there was just tension, there was this electricity in the air because of the sex, because of the drugs, because of the crime. It was just another level of creativity was getting spurned out of a reaction to the environment. Like, think of some of the landscapes that you remember, the scenescapes from 70s New York. Right, it looked like a scene out of a World War II movie. Right, some of the buildings were decrepit, were falling over each other, crime everywhere. But most likely, if you speak to people who lived around that era, right, 70s, 80s, maybe towards the early 90s, they'd probably tell you that was probably the funnest time ever to live in New York, because things were just electric, things were just risque, right? You didn't know if you were stepping outside, if you were going to step on a needle, if you were going to get shot in the face, if you're going to catch an STD, if you're going to get HIV. You had no idea what was going on when you stepped outside, but that's what made it fun. And maybe nowadays we're just too sanitized, we're too nerfed, right? We're too safe, and things are a little bit boring. So that might be part of the reason why things are the way they are. But I was just looking back, thinking around those kind of times, like, you could have probably gotten away with so much crime back then. The police back then, how they're depicted in Mindhunter, again, I know it's a TV series, it's not an accurate depiction of how they do their job, but the way the police were depicted in Mindhunter, you could have probably gotten away with so much crime back then because of their inability to connect certain dots, because of their refusal to look a bit deeper into things, because of this almost binary thing they had in their mind about good and evil, right? There was no there's like bad guys and good guys. There was no sort of like middle ground. It was really interesting to sort of like see that depicted in the series. And, and obviously the characters, the development of them, the threads for along the series. Like, what an incredible TV series. I really do wish and hope they bring it back, but I am doing this quite often where I'm kind of going back into the archives and rewatching loads of stuff that I kind of loved, just to kind of, remind myself at one time TV was amazing, because for the last few months I've also been putting myself through hell, watching some absolute diabolical crap. Like the other day I tried to watch the first 2 episodes of Halo and I was like, oh my God, I need to shoot myself in the face. Number one, why is Master Chief got his helmet off? Right, first already fucking minus mark on the Halo series. Why is Master Chief taking off his helmet? Why is that necessary? Then you think about it, you think, okay, practically, most likely that actor isn't going to take that role if he can't take off his helmet, right? In terms of exposure and to get his face out there, he's going to want to be able to people to see his face. So that's the only reason why he gets a role in the first place. That series probably doesn't get greenlit if you can't have a hunky dude take off his helmet in a big fucking moment of the fucking show. So it's really annoying to see that they've ruined such a legendary game on the first instance, right? A legendary franchise, a legendary video game for most of us out there, on the first hurdle, by removing the helmet from the main character of the series, just to appease this, this infatuation people have with having hunks on TV and something. Just tell the story, depict the story in the truest way possible, and most likely you're gonna get that moment you want anyway. Like, it's just annoying. So I'm going back in the archive, watching all the old stuff. I'm gonna also watch Sopranos again and The Wire, and maybe The Shield, because I still maintain The Shield might be one of the best cop dramas of all time, second only, I forgot what the name of the show was, but there was a show I used to watch. It was a crime show. It was Canadian. It was French Canadian, actually. I think it was, let me see if I can find it. French Canadian police drama, and it might be close to The Shield. I swear to God, it might be close to The Shield. It was called like 9-2 or something. Was it 9-2? Let's see if I can find it. It was called like 9-2 or 9-0 or something like that, and it was incredibly good for a French TV, for that sort of series. And again, I'm somebody that's watched The Shield. I've watched obviously The Wire and a few other TV series here in the UK that's also done well. I can't exactly get off to let's see if I can find a French Canadian. Let's see if I can find it on flipping Google. That's it. It's called 19-2. That's the one. 19-2. This series here might be legitimately one of the best police dramas I've ever watched in my entire life, and I do recommend, if you're a fan of police dramas like I am, please check out 19-2. It's this series right here. 19-2 is a Canadian police procedural crime television series developed by Bruce M. Smith, based on a Canadian French language series of the same name created by Réal Bousset and Claude Lugla. Or Lugley, I don't know how you pronounce his name. So that's probably why it's a good show then. It's based on a series of books. That might be why it's so good. It was produced by Sphere Media in association with Bell Media, blah, 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 blah. Incredible show. Incredibly good TV show. Definitely recommend you check that out if you're a fan of police dramas. And again, something that you don't really get this level of quality. Oh, and this guy, one of the guys in it is a dude from, I think, from the series called Letterkenny. I think, is it Letterkenny, that comedy people love? The white dude here on the left. So I recommend you check it out. Really cool. Loads of stuff about corruption, crime, ambition, the standard stuff, right? Drugs, gangs, all this sort of stuff, all kind of interwoven. It's really flipping good. Really, 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 really good. But again, what's close to it nowadays? FBI, that new series, that's not really good. I tried to watch that and that was horrible. SWAT is absolutely horrendous. NCIS is kind of falling off a cliff. Like, all these police procedural dramas, as they call them, aren't really that great anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with the writing. A lot of it has to do with, these kind of, these political kind of narratives they have to kind of imbue and everything, where they always have to be some sort of hero woman who's stronger than all the guys. It's just like, it's a nonsense tropes they kind of inject there. They don't really add anything to the show, but they just give you loads of like social virtue signaling points, when really, if you focus on just telling a good story, you're gonna, by proxy or by default, you're gonna be able to lift up some minority underrepresented voices anyway in the process. That's what you end up doing. You don't need to kind of shoehorn it in and have this like badass woman. Just write a good, well-rounded woman in the series, and most likely that character will rise to the top just by default of kind of the series kind of continuing on. But they try strong arm stuff. They always try to kind of, crowbar those things in, and it ends up taking away from the quality of the shows. But recommend you check out 19-2, really cool series. I actually might watch this again. I might actually put this on my list of things to watch again, because I remember a lot of people died in this, a lot of really quick, a lot of great cliffhangers and twists and stuff. So I might actually rewatch 19-2. I definitely checked out and finished Mindhunters over the weekend. Incredible series. I can't recommend it more. Incredible series. I can't recommend it more. On top of that, I've also been thinking a lot about Alexei Navalny. RIP Alexei Navalny, staunch critic of Vladimir Putin and that whole regime, strong anti-corruption politician. He might have his own skeletons in his own closet. I know there's some people out there who are hypothesizing that Alexei Navalny might have been an undercover CIA plant of some ilk or something. I don't really know where to kind of go with that sort of stuff, but regardless, he had balls of steel, way bigger balls of steel than I would have. He left Russia. He was able to kind of, he kind of exiled himself, and then he voluntarily went back to face the music, knowing full well he was going to go to prison, and knowing full well most likely he would never see the outside of that prison again. He kind of signed his own death warrant, for lack of a better term. And having a wife, I don't think he has a family, to be fair, so that might have helped, knowing that she's out there and kind of willingly putting himself in the line of that, sacrificing himself for the greater good. You have to give that guy a lot of credit. You have to kind of respect him, and you have to kind of just, honor his legacy, of how, you have to kind of just honor the fact that he, he was around and shit, and just kind of take the whole instances as a kind of humbling occurrence to kind of remind you of how terrible things are out there, especially if you're somebody like myself who kind of loves to moan a bit. You could be living in far worse places, right? Especially in a place like Russia. Well, to make things even scarier, look at this story courtesy of Sky News. Allies accuse Russian authorities of doing everything they can to avoid handing over his body to the family. So Russian authorities let it be known that Alexei Navalny died of some sort of natural causes. He had some sort of heart attack when he was walking in the yard, and then he collapsed, and the medics tried to help him, and he wasn't responding, and unfortunately passed away. Well, they didn't perform an autopsy yet, or an official one. The family want to get the body back themselves, so perform an autopsy, or to, basically be able to bury him. And the Russian authorities are purposely withholding the body from the family. So obviously, this kind of, the immediate response would be like, oh, the reason why they're withholding it is because something dodgy happened. So imagine that. Imagine a political opponent, a staunch political opponent, ends up dying in mysterious circumstances in prison, and instead of just releasing the body to the family, they're purposely withholding it, which probably means, most likely than not, don't be surprised if the body ends up getting cremated, in a mistake, right? In a procedural mistake, some sort of accounting error, some sort of paperwork, malfunction leads to that body getting cremated. I don't think they're going to be able to get that body intact in the way that they probably hope they would. I don't think so. But let's read the flipping article courtesy of Sky News. Spokeswoman Kira Yamishi confirmed that Mr. Navalny, the most prominent face of the Russian opposition for Putin, had died at the remote Arctic penal colony on Friday. Imagine what the conditions are like in a Russian penal colony. Obviously, they're always terrible anyway, but imagine what it must be like to be serving out your sentence, part of it, in a Russian penal colony. Imagine. What kind of work are they making you do? Breaking bricks in half, mining with your bare hands, scooping one pile of snow to the other pile of snow. Can you imagine what you have to do in that kind of place? God damn it. She claimed the 47-year-old had been murdered. However, she said lawyers of Mr. Navalny had been told by authorities that no crime had been found following an investigation. Meanwhile, Mr. Navalny's mother, Lyudmila, on Saturday traveled to the prison where her son was being held up until his death. That's obviously Alexei Navalny there, looking far more healthy than the pictures we saw of him in prison. She was told by prison officials that her son died on the 16th of February, 2017 local time as a result of sudden death syndrome, according to a prominent Navalny ally, Ivan Zadov. Sudden death syndrome. However, authorities have not yet released his body. His family and allies have also been driven around in circles, attempting to locate it, according to his mother. She said Mr. Navalny's mother had been told by a prison official that her son's body had been taken to the nearby city of Salehe as part of a probe into his death. That's obviously Mr. Navalny's mother there. But when she and Mr. Navalny's lawyers arrived to the morgue, it was closed, and the worker said the body was not there. Honestly, man. Right, and this is all on the backdrop, right, of Tucker Carlson going to Russia and basically running propaganda for them. Basically, he was trying to make it seem as if, oh, even though these guys live in an authoritarian country, the conditions are way better than they are here in the US, where he is. Imagine being that kind of bold, being that unashamed, being that lacking scruples, that you go to your country's mortal enemies. No, you travel to your country's mortal enemies country, and you basically go and run propaganda for them, and and espouse all the benefits that they have there of like cheap food and all this sort of malarkey. It's like, bruh, okay, fair enough, you can get loads of groceries for $100. But do you really want to live in a non-democratic country like that, where if you do rise up and you are a legit, opposition to Putin's regime, that you legitimately might get killed, or you legitimately might put your rest of your family, your friends in danger? Is that really a life worth living? Especially when you think about some of the protesters, right? These protesters went to go and do a silent vigil about Alexei Navalny to honor him, right? And his passing. They put some flowers out somewhere, just silently not saying anything, not even chanting, nothing. And police pulled up and started dragging them all away from the vigil and started throwing them in the back of fucking trucks and shit. Can you imagine that? You can't even have a silent vigil, just honoring somebody with some flowers, and police arrest you. How long for? Imagine. God damn it. Hours later, Miss Yamishi said the lawyers for the politician were told that Navalny's body would not be handed over to his relatives until an investigation to his death had been completed. So the Russian authorities are refusing to hand over Navalny's body. The results will supposedly be available next week. It's obvious that they are lying and doing everything they can to avoid handing over the body. So either they're handing over they're working on the body now, for lack of a better term, not to be crude. Either they're working on it, trying to do what they can to change the autopsy results, right? I don't know if that's possible. I guess you can do that post-mortem, right? You can probably or post-death, right? You can probably damage the body to a way to kind of, throw people off the scent of what actually happened. So if somebody got strangled, you could probably do something to the body to make it look like it wasn't a strangulation. Maybe it was whatever. You can do something. So that's probably what they're doing. Or most likely, my guess is that they'll probably end up cremating the body. The Russian authorities will find a way to fuck something up in the transport, cremate the body by quote unquote mistake, and then the whole thing will just be swept under the rug. I think that's what they're going to try and do. She accused the investigation committee in Samarkand of driving us around in circles and covering their tracks, as only hours before they were told that the investigation had already been concluded and nothing criminal had been established. Here's obviously a vigil, a little thing honoring his death. Russian Federal Penitentiary Services reported on Friday that Mr. Navalny felt sick after a walk and became unconscious at the penal colony in the town of Karp in the Yamalo-Nenets region, which is within the Arctic Circle. Look at that. More than 400 people detained. Who would want to live in Russia, bro? More than 400 people have been detained in Russia. Meanwhile, more than 400 people, since the moment Mr. Navalny's death has become public, according to the independent human rights organization, the arrests are half of which were made on Saturday, were made across 32 Russian cities. 400 arrests over 32 cities. Look at the police. Look at the uniforms. Look at the helmets. Look at the visors. They mean fucking business, bro. They look legit, innit? Like guns, bats, pepper spray, but like, bulletproof vest, stab-proof vest, I'm assuming, nice warm coats. Like, these guys mean business. Like, you don't play games in Russia. You play games, you get your head caved in. Forget what happened to George Floyd. You think that's awful? They must, even Russian, it's probably not even that lethal. It probably won't even go that lethal straight away. They probably just punish you slowly. If ever you see pictures of people in prison in Russia, one thing you notice straight away is that they are incredibly skinny. They probably feed them just about enough to keep them alive. It's not like prisons here where people go into a prison in the West and they actually get fatter, right? That doesn't happen over there. Over there, you get, things happen. Things definitely go a bit differently over there. So, RIP Alexei Navalny. But the update here, according to the Telegraph, says Navalny's body was found to be bruised in the Arctic morgue. Let's read this one quickly. It says the bruised body of Alexei Navalny, the Russian opposition leader, has been found in the hospital morgue in the Arctic. So they finally got it now, right? The paramedic told the Russian authorities media that there were bruises on Navalny's head and chest when his body was brought into the Salehe District Clinical Hospital. So supposedly he suffered from some sort of heart thing that led him collapsing, which is why he died. but now they're finding bruising on his head and his body that is probably, similar to somebody getting hit or assaulted. Such injuries described by those that we saw them appeared from seizures. Okay, they say, okay. The other paramedic said the person convulses. They tried to restrain him. The bruises appear. They also said that he could also had a bruise on his chest. That is still tried to resuscitate him, and he died, most likely from cardiac arrest. Russian prison officials said that Navalny died on Friday after falling ill during a short walk at the IK3, a notoriously brutal prison in the Russian Arctic. Navalny's mother failed to find his body in the morgue in Salehe. If he did die of natural causes, like randomly, they would just probably release his body because it would have just done them a favor. Because for sure they're already planning to take him out anyway. But if he actually did die of natural causes, they'll release his body a long time ago. The fact that they're not releasing his body is probably proof that he didn't die of natural causes, and the Russian government have played a part in it in some regard. They need to ask Nina Kravitz what happened. Hopefully someone gets in touch with Nina Kravitz and finds out what she knows. Maybe Nina Kravitz can call up Putin and find out what the deal is. Reporters said that no autopsy had yet been performed. They also said that two unscheduled flights from Moscow had landed on Saturday in Salehe, possibly with autopsy specialists. The first jet landed about 6 in the evening. It was met by cars, and the second one arrived an hour later. Russian observers said that the state autopsy specialists may have been flown in from Moscow so that they can deliver a death certificate that pleases the Kremlin. They also said that it was unusual to send a body of a dead prisoner from IK3 to hospital morgue, as Navalny had been there rather than a municipal one. Navalny was pictures most. So yeah, let's see what happens. Either way, RIP Alexei Navalny. Incredibly sad to hear of his passing, but of course not surprised when you consider how much of a serious, deadly, lethal, authoritarian fucking Vladimir Putin is. He really doesn't play no games. He doesn't not like any opposition. He doesn't like to be questioned, really, for lack of a better term. You saw a lot of that in the Tucker Carlson interview. He almost had this look of despise. It's almost like he despised Tucker Carlson. His occupation as a journalist, he kind of, looked down on him as if like, how dare you come here and ask me any questions? How dare you make me justify the way that I kind of govern my country in any way, shape or form? It was really kind of interesting to see the contempt in his face as he was talking to Tucker. Yeah, I get it. Tucker Carlson is a piece of shit. He's kind of, easy to hate, right? In the Brendan Schaub way. But it was quite weird to see that playing out in real time. So RIP Alexei Navalny, really, really RIP to him. It's really sad to see that happen, and we hope going forward that this might be a change that Russia needs to kind of get things, back into some sort of democratic way. Unlikely, to be honest. That probably will only happen when Putin passes, and even then, there's no guarantee. There's probably somebody they're probably grooming underneath him to kind of take the reins and continue doing what he's doing now. So it's kind of looking peak for them. It really is kind of looking peak for them. So, thoughts and feelings go out to Alexei Navalny's family. Can't begin to understand or, try to figure out how they're feeling right now, bro. You're trying to, privately mourn your passing of your family and friend, and then it's being blasted all over the flipping news networks. The government is running cover, hiding the body, all this sort of malarkey is happening. It's just, you kind of want to lay the person to rest, and, they're definitely not being laid to rest right now because, they're going through all this flipping situation. So big up, Eleni, appreciate
Free
you.
Palestine, no more is propaganda.
And then, indeed, my friend, indeed, I agree with you. Free Palestine until the end. Free Palestine until the blood clot end. You get me? Free Palestine and all my brothers and sisters over there. Free Palestine. So let's continue on. Another one I was talking about here. So I quickly saw this, and I thought this was hilarious because this kind of speaks to this weird place we're in now in culture, where I think most people are understanding now that the whole anti-cancel culture people out there used it as a ruse to basically signal amplify themselves, right? To put themselves up on a pedestal, put themselves up on a soapbox, and to basically make themselves more famous. Like, I think at first it was a little bit, malicious cancel culture. It was done in a way to sort of like bring down certain people and to maybe allow the people who were doing the canceling to take their positions, because some of them probably felt like they were unrecognized geniuses who never got the praise or the chances or the opportunities that they probably thought that they were deserving of. So what better way to take that chance than to bring somebody else down and lift yourself up? So cool, happened that way. But I do think it had some utility, because as I said before, as much as I dislike and hate cancel culture, I think the utility in it is when it's a crime. I would say crime when it's when it's an incident that can't be punishable in the court of law, but you can maybe let that person suffer some sort of reputational damage, right? That's important. If the person embarrassed you when you were coming up, or they abused you or made you feel less than, if you have an opportunity to kind of like air them out and expose what they did to them, what they did to you, nowadays where people are a little bit more empathetic to that kind of, you know, cause, you could probably make them suffer some reputational damage, and that might make you sleep better at night to know that, you know, they've, you know, maybe not got a job anymore, or that they've all their business is plastered all over social media. But on the other side of things, nowadays I'm seeing it's being used more as a ruse, more as a grift, to be honest, to make it seem like the person who's talking about anti-cancel culture is like the primo truth teller. And there's no better example of it than Joe Rogan now. And again, I'm upset about it because I fucking love Joe Rogan. But Joe Rogan's becoming the #1 grifter when it comes to this cancel culture lark. It's just annoying because it just goes on and on and on about the same thing. And it's like, hold on, bro. How can you be talking about you're not allowed to say certain things when you just got 250 million from Spotify? Before the other 200 million you got before that? Like, how are you being denied the right to say certain things when you are one of the richest people in the world and you have access to most of the people to talk to who you want, and you'd never been deplatformed? Like, how does that make any sense? So let's play this clip. It features Rogan and Chris Williamson on his recent podcast talking about how you can't tell the truth anymore, you get punished. I think it's incredibly insulting to those of us who actually have to live in the real world. So let's see what these guys are talking about, because I think this is absolutely stupid. So let's play this video.
Another one would be what makes a woman attractive?
Oh.
Because the socially acceptable answer to that is one that is untruthful. And the problem with this is...
What is the socially acceptable answer to that?
It would be to do with, it's about grace and poise, you know, anything that isn't big titties. Like, if you say big titties,
right,
that you failed, right? You can't say big titties,
well,
you can't say a nice
if you're
ass.
single. You can't if you...
Who said that, by the way? Who said you can't go on social media and say that your preference is big tits? Who said you can't go on social media and say your preference is massive, crazy, fake BBLs? Who said you can't go on social media and say you want a girl with massive dick-sucking lips? Who said you can't say that? People say that all the time. People say that even without saying that, by sharing, you know, unlimited amount of images of people that they've never met on their fucking feed. Oh, I've got a crush on this person. This person makes my wee hard. All this sort of stuff. People say it all the time. So what is this notion that you can't say these certain things? It's absolutely preposterous. Yes, you can't go out there and... No, you can't. But it's not advisable to go out there and denigrate people who don't fit your fucking vision of beauty, right? Or your preference, in order to lift up people that you do like. That's just mean, right? Why would you go out there and purposely call somebody fat and say, oh, I would never fuck you, you're too fat, but I'd fuck this person? There's no need to say that, obviously, but that's just like general manners. There's no need to put somebody down to put somebody else up. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't get this whole like, oh, you can't say this, you can't. Yes, you can. You can say what the fuck you want. But obviously you have to face the consequences of what you do say if somebody doesn't like it. That's all.
Are worried about acquiring a mate. You can't, if you are of a social dynamic that needs to have your job, and you have a human resources center that's very stringent. They're very strict about what they allow their people to... You might affect your possibility of getting a promotion, might affect your standing amongst the women in the office. You know, they don't like when you tell the truth, Chris.
But that's how most workplaces are. I don't think you could rock into Joe Rogan's studio, whereas he booked you as an interviewer, and tell him the truth about how he is, tell him the truth about his political opinions, tell him the truth about his worldview, tell him the truth about his unfunny friends. He also wouldn't receive that well. So we're all not really attuned to receiving or to listening to the truth. Radical honesty is radical because most people don't want to hear it. Right, you have to have a semblance of, like, you know, manners, or semblance of, like, you know, common decency to tell people certain things in a certain way. And in the workplace, it's no better example of it. If you want to keep your job, which allows you to pay your bills, allows you to flipping, you know, put your kids through school and go on holidays or buy yourself like fancy trainers, it's probably advisable to keep some of your opinions about your female colleagues' looks to yourself. Why would you go out there and purposely tell them that they're ugly or tell them that they're fat? Like, why would you do that? It makes no sense. It's not the company that are like stifling your free speech, because all you need to do is walk out of that building, go to a bar somewhere with your colleagues who you trust, and suddenly you can talk about those things that you want to talk about, like we all do. right? At work, we don't really, I don't know about you guys, but I'm the kind of person, I don't even gossip or go that crazy on my work Slack, on my teams. I don't even do that. Like, I'm not even going to risk that. I'd rather do it on like a group chat somewhere that's separate or something. But I'm not going to be talking crazy about my colleagues on a fucking company Slack and a team and then get surprised. I know they're not allowed to obviously look inside it, but then get surprised when some of those flipping comments I've made get used to kind of, put me down, or maybe to kind of discipline me, or to, for worse, kind of fire me. Like, it's just common sense. Like, it's not like they're stifling your free speech. It's just you being smart about what you say based on the environment that you're in, because everything that you say, whenever you say it, has consequences. Even if you say something bad about somebody in a bar and it gets back to people in the office, you could face some level of consequence. Yes, it's not fair because you're not at work, but you have to be mindful of who you're speaking to, of who you're speaking to, what you're saying. And sometimes you have to also be mindful of like saying, is it worth even talking about? Is it worth even mentioning, really? Does this really do anything for me? Does this advance anything forward? Like, it's not, some things are better left unsaid, as they say.
Work with women, you can't say, I think women with big asses and big tits are hot as fuck. You can't say that. Even though they know that it's true.
Yeah.
You can't be a good person. You can't be a good person and even admit that. That's what I'm attracted to.
The only thing I would say that is probably something I've noticed that's really interesting as a observation when it comes to like conversation around beauty. I think there is a lack of honesty from women, probably generally on social media or in the world, about how difficult it is for a man to go from like 0 to like an 8. I think most women could achieve that through makeup, right? Especially if you got let's assuming that you've got like an average body, you're not super fat, your assets are where they should be, all that sort of malarkey. A woman could improve their face card tenfold by just, getting better at makeup and understanding what works best for them, what to accentuate. Men don't really have that. The only thing that we have close to makeup is a beard and a haircut. But then again, you have to still hope that you have a good face, because a beard and a haircut isn't going to save you if you look like fucking Chin, right? You still need to have a good grill, but you can't improve that grill with makeup as a dude, especially as a straight dude. You can't really do that. So I think there's a lack of understanding, lack of appreciation of just how difficult it is for men to go from looking like shit, to go from looking like unattractive to attractive. Whereas I think women can do that. An unattractive girl can really take herself from a 0 to a 6 pretty easily. Even if she's fat, putting on some Spanx, putting on a nice outfit that accentuates whatever she has as a main asset, improving the makeup that she does. But I don't think men have that leeway. So the reason why, we don't have that leeway. So I think that's why this is a weird stretch. I know this is a weird stretch, but I think that might be the reason why people get infatuated with the gospel of Andrew Tate, with the gospel of Fresh and Fit, because those guys, as much as they talk about going to the gym, the thing that they talk about the most is money, is ascertaining wealth, money, because they know that the biggest way to improve your chances of who you can get as a mate or as a sexual partner is to increase how much money you make. Suddenly then you become appealing to everybody. It's like that great Future quote, right? When you've got money, you're everyone's type, right? I love that fucking quote from him. Very toxic, but it's very true. So I think that's why most guys who are stuck and know that they don't have good DNA, they don't have good genetics, even if they got a beard and they get a hair transplant, nothing's going to change really, because their face and their grill, their posture's all over the place. But if they invest in stocks, if they invest in a startup, if they invest in some fucking drop shipping thing and they get some money and it improves their fucking appearance on social, they know it goes tenfold to increasing their options of the women that they get. So that whole mating relationship process thing is completely different for the sexes. It's really different. And that, again, might be the reason why the likes of Andrew Tate and the Fresh and Fit and all those kind of guys have become very prominent with some guys, because, some guys are just like, hey, I can't do much. Like, I don't have a good base. My voice is horrible. I got terrible acne. My hair isn't growing right. All this sort of stuff. But if I just get money, then suddenly I can date fucking models and porn stars, which is what most of them end up doing, which is really funny.
Which is odd.
When punishment for what people say becomes widespread, people will stop saying what they think and instead say whatever is needed to thrive.
Right.
And this is why limits on speech become limits on sincerity.
I think the most concerning thing for me when it comes to limits on speech is definitely for regular people. I think the worst thing is that story, that iconic story in that book about that lady that was going to Africa He was like, oh, she does a tweet, and the joke is like, oh, I'm going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. And then by the time she lands, the tweet goes viral, she loses her job, she gets doxxed, all this sort of shit, right? That I think is way more concerning than some comedian who gets told that their joke is insensitive and they have to apologize. Because regular people having their lives destroyed because of some off-color joke they said on Twitter is fucking awful. That is actual counterculture that we should be kind of trying to abolish, right? We should be trying to kind of fight against, not these comedians, people who use cancel culture as a promotional tool, use it as a marketing fucking routine. Oh my god, they won't let me say this, here's the joke that Netflix wouldn't let me put in their special, but all this sort of nonsense they use to kind of build themselves up. We don't give a fuck about that. I care about the regular folks who can't say what they want to say on social, who can't like suit some, who can't like have a bit of banter online and shit, and then it kind of ends up impacting their real life, and then that ends up impacting their relationships, their family dynamics, all this sort of nonsense. I don't care if some comedian can't say a certain joke in a certain special, because they can if they want to, but they just use it as a ruse to kind of profile and bump themselves up. I flipping hate it personally. I flipping despise it, and I wish it would stop talking about it. But I find Joe to be interesting because Joe has this ability to keep talking about the same thing ad nauseum and not get bored of it. Like, he doesn't get bored of the sound of his own voice when he speaks about counterculture. Like, it's interesting that, isn't it? Like, because I know for me, I have people on my pod leave me comments, send me emails, send me DMs, numerous DMs, about how often I repeat myself, about how often I repeat a sentence or a story, right? Or to emphasize something, and they say how annoying it is. And I understand that sometimes I do it on purpose, sometimes I don't do it on purpose, but Rogan has like 5 or 10 subjects that he just repeats ad nauseum. Right? Cancel culture, 1,000 top comedians, something about apes, the guy with the fucking, Oppenheimer. Like, he has these things that he just talks about, like fucking again and again and again, DMT, and he never gets bored. And I'm wondering if that's probably one of the reasons why he's so successful. That ability to just keep going on and on and on about the same thing, just bringing the fucking hits, right? The big hits, the top 10 hits of Rogan. It's fucking amazing how he does it. It's honestly one of the most impressive things about him. So big up Rogan, big up Rogan. Next, I got this clip, courtesy of the Fire and the Kid subreddit.
Yeah, come on, dude.
We go to the Fire and the Kid subreddit, guys. I really like this clip. I'm wondering, who do you think comes back first? Keep in mind what I'm saying here. Who do you think comes back first? Do you think Kanye gets back into a collaboration partnership with Adidas first, or do you think Chris D'Elia gets back on Netflix first? Who gets back with who first? Because this joke made me think of it. Big up Tim Dillon.
Yeah, come on, dude. I gotta win this bet.
Adidas they have stockholders. They have a whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think he comes back to Adidas. Does he have concerts? Sure.
No, for sure. I'll have concerts.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is the new album good? I didn't hear it.
Well, you know who the new. Oh, by the way, this is kind of interesting. But do you know who Adidas is using now? Chris D'Elia. No, I'm dead serious.
No.
He is. There's a commercial.
No.
He's coaching a girls' track team.
No, Tim, that's not why they're running.
So who do you think comes back first? I think, honestly, this sounds dumb, but I think probably Chris D'Elia has way more chance of coming back than Kanye West. I think what we've seen with Kanye West and how he got fucking cancelled all the way through, up and down, across the board, has been something that we've never seen before. Because you also have to keep in mind, he's also getting sued. He's being sued by Adidas for like multiple millions because they're accusing him of misusing marketing funds, right? Which is hilarious, right? He got given the marketing budget and he just pocketed it because he said, I am the marketing. Which has been incredible. But I think Netflix would probably be more likely to get back into bed, for lack of a better term, with Chris D'Elia, despite all the allegations about him being a diddler and a supposed paedophile and an abuser and a rapist and a manipulator and all this sort of malarkey, branding young girls, documentaries with millions of views with all these details in it and really incriminating flipping, court cases with loads of, horrible flipping details. I think Netflix would probably turn a blind eye to that stuff and get back into business with Chris D'Elia before Adidas would ever get back in business with fucking Kanye West. And that just goes to show the power, the influence, and the grip that the Jewish community has on certain parts of the, of business around the world. Because the way they cancelled him when he came out as a unapologetic anti-Semite and a lover of Hitler was incredible. I've never kind of seen that level of cancellation before, especially if you think about how it's still affecting him now. It's affecting him now to the point where his album keeps getting removed from iTunes. There was a few concerts that he had that he was trying to put up before the release of Vultures that got cancelled last minute because of the stuff that he said previously about the Jewish people and about obviously Hitler and shit and all the other stuff he said before about the dilliance with fucking Trump and Louis Malarkey. You got to see in real time just how much that affects people. Obviously, Kanye was a bit fortunate because he was able to bank a lot of money before that. I think that gave him, a space and a room to be a little bit like, hey, fuck you, because he had literal fuck you money, so he could take those type of chances. I think if that happened to anybody else, or if it happened at the beginning of his journey with Adidas, he definitely would have been bankrupt by now, because they are absolutely trying to quote unquote kill him. And again, even though he said words, right? Kanye just said words. So far, the thing I love about Kanye also, to be fair, is that that's why he's my GOAT. No sexual allegation against Kanye whatsoever. There's no allegation about Kanye being weird with women, about being weird with kids. He's basically unblemished in that regard. But personality-wise, interpersonally, he does come across like a bit of a cunt. I can't even deny. Even though I'm a Kanye lover and I love him to death and I'll never turn my back on him, I think Kanye West isn't the greatest friend to have, right? He's a bit of a prick. But he doesn't do anything like malicious or criminal or evil or disgusting with girls and shit, right? And he's getting cancelled in a way that you would think he did something like that. Whereas Chris D'Elia has been accused of what he got accused of, and most likely Netflix will probably get him back, especially nowadays, considering how they're struggling to get viewers and shit. It's probably good for the network or for the platform if they do get him back business with him. They have all the articles come out and stuff about Chris D'Elia being a monster. That kind of leads to people watching the whatever he's on, series or special and stuff, and it kind of boosts their numbers and gets more signups. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Chris D'Elia having a comedy special on Netflix sooner than Kanye West getting back into business with Adidas, which is diabolical when you consider what each person did. It's diabolical. It's really diabolical, but it also goes to show you the real own goal and dumb decision that Kanye did when he did flipping come out and say the stuff that he said, because he was on some mad thing. He was on some, look, no one should be cancelled tip. I can say what I want. If I can't say how I feel, then what's the point of living? He went out there, proclaimed how much of an anti-Semite he was, said the thing that you're not meant to say, and now his life is like, where he basically has to appeal to the fans only, which is good, to be honest. I quite like the new Kanye now, where he's like solely based on just entertaining his fans and not kind of trying to fight against the system and convince people that he's the god or whatever it may be, because all these fans, myself included, think he's a god anyway. But Jesus Christ, bro. Chris D'Elia definitely will get back into business with Netflix before Kanye gets back into business with flipping Adidas. Next on the list, I wanted to speak about this because I thought this is interesting, right? Usually, when you become a professional in your area of expertise or in your craft, it usually means that you're an expert in what you're in. Because, a professional, I always say, like, I remember people used to ask me sometimes in the creative field, how do you, like, sorry, not people used to ask me. This is my own sort of like, philosophy. I think the only time you're allowed to put like artist, DJ, writer, painter, podcaster, all this stuff in your bio is when it pays you. When somebody pays you for the thing that you do, that's when you can put that shit in your bio. I think before you're paid, it's just a hobby that you're doing, just a thing that you do for your free time to keep your brain occupied, blah, 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 let off some steam. But as soon as somebody pays you, it doesn't matter if it's $5, if it's a drink token, if it's a taxi fare, whatever it is, as soon as somebody exchanges some sort of monetary thing for your time, that's when you can call yourself a quote unquote professional. And obviously if you're a professional, it usually delineates that you are an expert in your field. But I've always found Brendan Schaub to be one of the interesting exemptions in that regard, right? He was a former professional UFC fighter. He was a top 15 ranked. Now, it doesn't matter if you think he was good or not. It doesn't matter if you think Brendan Schaub came up in an era in the UFC where the heavyweights weren't that great in general, where the standard fighting wasn't that great. It doesn't matter what you think. On paper, Brendan smashed it. He was a fucking former failed NFL player who didn't really go too far. He then translated that skill set to the UFC, fought at the biggest level, knocked out Mirko Cro Cop. You know, even though his career ended in fucking tears, he still was able to do that. So amazing he did that. But the one thing that's always really surprised me is his lack of knowledge when it comes to the UFC. He has no ability to break down fights or cards or fighters and make some astute predictions. All these predictions and fight picks are always just completely off, to the point where now people on the Fighting the Kid subreddit constantly, whenever he does a fight pick for an up-and-coming UFC card, there are people on that Reddit who will purposely go and bet the opposite. So if he says one person's going to win, they'll bet the other way. And usually they'll win. And somebody put together a spreadsheet, actually, that detailed all these picks. And the majority, I think it was like over 80% of his picks he's got over the years have been wrong. And it's like, don't get me wrong, the UFC is not an exact science. Just because this guy won this fight and that guy lost that fight, it doesn't mean when they get into the ring, the one that won before is going to win. But if you watch enough the UFC, it's kind of easy to make astute predictions about how a fight will go. Oh, this person's going to win. This might go to decision. This person might get knocked out in this way, because you just watch certain fights so you can see how certain people, you know, styles make fights. This person might have a style that might, you know, cause the other person problems and vice versa. It's not that hard to kind of ascertain. So this clip is really funny because prior to the UFC 298 with headlining card of the main event being Ilia Topuria versus Volkanovski, most people, myself included, thought Topuria would win. Not because Volkanovski is terrible, but because Topuria is obviously a young, hungry lion on a come up, and Volkanovski's had some dog fights. Even though he's won a couple of them, I think he's on like a free loss streak or something at the moment now. He's had 5 fights where he's been taken to the darkest waters, right? He's been knocked out in a couple of them in brutal fashion. He's getting older. Like it made sense why most people would predict that Topuria would win, but maybe not by a devastating knockout like he did in the second round. Maybe I thought it would go to decision, but I never thought it was it wasn't like a crazy suggestion to suggest that Topuria would have won. But look at how flipping Brendan Schaub kind of depicts it. It's a really interesting way how he sort of like speaks about the fight before it happened. And again, this is a former UFC fighter, a former professional. Listen to his observation and his pick before the fight happened.
But those of you picking Topuria to beat Alexander Volkanovski, it's recent bias confirmation.
I love that also. Recent bias confirmation. He's getting 2 different terms mixed up into one. Recency bias and bias confirmation. Recent bias confirmation. Let's do that one more time. I love that. Recent bias confirmation.
Volkanovski, it's recent bias confirmation.
Recency bias, confirmation bias. Recency bias, confirmation bias. He's melding those 2 things together, which are 2 completely different things, by the way, right? You know that, right? Recency bias is obviously you having bias based on what you remember recently, and confirmation bias is you trying to confirm what you're already, like looking for information that already confirms what you think. They're 2 completely different terms, but he's putting them both together and they don't make any sense. But let's continue.
You forget how freaking special Volkanovski is at featherweight. It's not even close.
So again, this is not him having a favorite, which you're allowed to have. This is him saying it's not even going to be close. He's talking about Ilia Topuria as if he's some bum, as if he's some, you know, flash in the pan hype kid that people are making a big noise about because he's flashy, because he's new, but he's not that good, and you guys are underestimating how good Volkanovski is. No, people are saying Volkanovski is amazing, but this kid is special, and Volk has been in some absolute dogfights, going from the win he had against Max Holloway. Like that was, I think, that went the entire 5 rounds. The loss he has against Makachev, that went the distance. The win he had against Yair Rodriguez, that also went, I think, to the 3rd round. The loss against Makachev, and that, if I'm not, the loss against Makachev again was, if I'm not mistaken, that was a last minute one, right? If I'm not mistaken, he didn't have much of a camp. I think he replaced somebody else. I forgot which one it was. And then of course Ilia Topuria won. So if you made a guess that Ilia Topuria would have beat him, it's not like a bad assumption. And of course, whatever we say that, it's not to denigrate Volk. And then of course, what happens in the fight? What happens in the fight? Of course you know what happens. Ilia Topuria wins. Ilia Topuria wins in devastating fashion in the second round, you know, with a 4-punch combo, basically, right? It was absolutely like scary to see the whole sequence play out because, you know, Volk was on the floor crumpled and he didn't stand up for a while. But Ilia Topuria ends up kind of, you know, winning the belt and knocking up this legend, this fucking beast of a fighter in Volkanovski with this amazing 4-punch combo, which wouldn't be a surprise if you watch a lot of Ilia Topuria. It's not a surprise that he was able to do such a thing to Volk. It's not because Volk is terrible, it's just because of the way the UFC is. One person's advancing in age, one person's coming up in hungry, like styles make fights. Volk has had a really crazy run of fights where he's won some, lost some, but they've gone the distance, they've been brutal, they've been spectacular, so his body is probably taking a lot of wear and tear. I think Volk, if I'm not mistaken, is like 50, no, he's like 35, sorry. I think Topuria is like maybe 26, 27. Like, come on, man. So that's why I'm surprised and I'm shocked when I see Brendan, because I can't think of anybody else. Big up, NJ Ranger, appreciate you.
He truly is the stuttering John of our generation.
Exactly.
He's a dabbler in comedy.
Exactly. I can't think of anybody else. Big up NJ Ranger, appreciate you. I can't think of anybody else who was a professional in their field, but is clueless. Because I know in football, do you guys know in football, like, there's plenty of footballers who don't watch football, right? I think the most famous one is Ben White, the defender for Arsenal, who doesn't really like football. He doesn't watch it or kind of talk about it in any way, shape or form outside of him playing for Arsenal. He completely kind of wants to disassociate and disconnect from it when he's outside of regular life. Fair enough. But I don't think if you asked Ben White about his opinion on football, he'd give you some dumb opinion. He's still going to give you an astute insight into football because he's a professional footballer. He might not like want to talk about it, but he still knows more because he plays the sport professionally and he has different insight than the regular kind of armchair fan like I am. But Brendan is unique in that he doesn't have the necessary knowledge that he should have based on his former profession. And even though he does it as a job, he still doesn't even look like he takes any care or attention or time into researching and just finding things out. Like, you could have made that prediction that Topuria would have beat Volk just by looking at their fight record. Just on going on Wikipedia and comparing their fight record and just copy pasting the fights onto YouTube, watching some of the highlights and thinking, one person's had a lot of fights that they dominated and were on the front foot and they kind of starched most people and they were well-rounded, a couple of submissions and knockouts. The other person's had absolute wars with some of the best fighters in the division. Who's going to win? And advancing in age. It's not that difficult. So that's why when I think about Brendan, it always kind of reminds me that sometimes just because somebody does something as a job professionally doesn't mean they're an expert. You have to take everybody by a case-by-case basis. You can't just assume because somebody does something as an occupation that they know what they're talking about. Some people just lucked out. Some people just get lucky, in life, quote unquote, and they make it in something that probably aren't that enthusiastic about. Like, I still maintain to this day that I feel like Brendan probably never wanted to be a UFC fighter. Not probably. I don't think he ever thought about fighting in his entire life. But, needs must. You're hungry. You wanna make it in LA. You're struggling and shit. The football didn't work out. You do what you need to do to pay the bills. So he went into something. He advanced very quickly because I think, again, at that era of UFC when he was in it, a lot of big, strong guys were able to kind of make it quite far because there wasn't a lot of competition. Nowadays, you can't just make it based on your size and your strength. You have to be actually skilled. But he did make it back then. And he obviously was able to kind of parlay that into podcasting, into stand-up. So it kind of worked out for him. But because of that, because of that genesis of him never wanting to really ever fight in his life, maybe that's why he, maybe that's why he didn't really he never really cared anymore. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I found that prediction to be absolutely incredible when I saw it. And I thought, wow, okay, cool. Like, why would you just say, he completely dismissed Topuria as if he's some bum? It's like, I know Volk is amazing. I know Volk has beaten some absolute warriors over his time, right? Volk has beaten some absolute warriors, right? Ortega, Max Holloway, Korean Zombie, if I'm not mistaken. I think Korean Zombie, if I'm not mistaken. like I think he might have beat Max Holloway twice, maybe more than twice if I'm not mistaken, right, or something like that. Like he's like Jose Aldo, Volkan's beaten over the time, Chad Mendes, like he's beaten some absolute beasts over the time. But let's also remember, Volkanovski's been around for a while, bro. And towards the end of his, run, he's had to have absolute brutal fights where he's kind of taken a lot of damage, right? But both Makachev fights were not easy. Obviously, he lost one of them by crazy knockout. The other one was probably a lot more closer. The Yair Rodriguez fight in between also wasn't easy, even though he won that fight. Like, bro, like, come on, man. Like, we know what happens in the UFC when people advance in the years. It doesn't really help situations, especially when you have to fight a young, hungry lion. Like, things can get very tricky for you very, very, very quickly. What are you guys saying here in the chat to me? Big up Assad.
Brendan is delusional because he really believe he could beat high-level heavyweight fighters with a double leg. Even though he is not decorated wrestler or a good striker. Just can't accept it.
100%. To be fair, I think the insight that I remember that I thought, okay, this guy never stood a chance when it came to the UFC. Do you guys remember that episode where he did that fight thing with Eric Griffin? They did some serious thing where they would sit down and watch old fights. And Eric Griffin was asking him some questions, like as a casual. He was like, "Oh, like you didn't watch any tape?" And bro was like, "No. I left it to my coaches." Like he refused to watch tape. He didn't watch any of his fights back. He never watched his opponents fighting. He just let his coaches handle it. Now I know some fighters do that because they just want to get to the fight and kind of turn on the fucking the afterburners. But that lack of review, that lack of analysis was very telling, because it was like, oh, this is why you were never able to kind of iron out some of your, deficiencies and some of your shortcomings and some of your skill sets improved. And this explains quite a bit that you just kind of, whatever the coach says you kind of went with. And even then, I don't really know what the game plan was when he was in the octagon in the first place, but that basically said a lot about his his mindset going into fight. So I never really understood that thing, especially when you think about him not being a lifelong martial artist. I think if you're a lifelong martial artist, maybe it's advantageous not to be watching too many fights and be analyzing your own fights, because you might get in your head a bit, blah, blah, blah. But I think if you come into it late in life, you probably need every advantage given to you. So if it means watching fights, if it means going and traveling to other camps, if it means doing all this sort of stuff, you need as much as possible, to kind of help yourself, because you don't have the advantage of starting doing martial arts when you were like 9. You started it when you were like 26, you know what I mean? So you need to do as much research as possible to kind of get yourself up there, I would imagine. So, what can you do? What can you do? Andy Ward, Volk beat Holloway 3 times, easy. Yeah, I know. I don't think I did. I never said he didn't, did I? I know Volk beat Holloway. I never said he didn't. I don't think I said he didn't, but yeah, thank you for the correction regardless. Yeah, he beat Holloway 3 times, yeah. All close fights, I think. I think people that love Max Holloway would say that Holloway won 2 of them, but, I think Volk did very well in terms of asserting his dominance in that fucking trilogy. Those are really fun fights as well, by the way. Really, really fun fights. Anyway, let's continue. Let's move on. Next on list here. I normally hate this page. I hate everything about it. I hate what it stands for. I hate the person behind it. I think the person behind it was, if I'm not mistaken, involved with Drake in some respect. I remember seeing some story about how Drake basically hit them up and just helped him style him or whatever, build out his wardrobe, and this guy just like made up a fucking Google sheet of all the most limited edition pieces out there that everybody kind of wanks over and sent it to Drake, and then Drake just kind of bought everything that was available on there on Grail and stuff. That's why Drake kind of pops up sometimes looking like a mess, because there's no real rhyme or reason why he has these certain things he just has them because he has money and shit, and there's no real attention to what he's into, about his shape, about his body shape, about what looks best on him, all this summer. Like, it's just like hype shit for the sake of hype shit. So I'm not really the biggest fan of HIDDEN.NY, right? That's the page on Instagram. I'm not really a fan of it. I think it's fucking bullshit. I hate the aesthetic behind it. I hate this like imagine nostalgia thing behind it. I hate that they repeat and just regurgitate the same images again and again and again, and they don't really say anything insightful. They don't really kind of spread any knowledge or any of that kind of malarkey. But I have to be honest, and especially their collaborations as well, they've been terrible over the past few years. I think the Bape one, I think they did one with BBC, with NERD, sorry, that was horrendous. They did one with the Needles, that was fucking awful. But as much as I hate HIDDEN.NY, I have to admit, these asics that they did are really nice. As much as I hate HIDDEN.NY, the page and everything about it, I have to admit these asics gels are really fucking nice. So it's courtesy of Hypebeast. I forgot to mention it before. They're meant to be dropping sometime in March, and they're all white asics. You know what asics look like, and they obviously feature the signature green and white colorway that you know of HIDDEN.NY. And these might be legitimately some of the best things that they've ever done. They've got some nice hit of the hidden logo here on the tongue on one side with the circle with the H on the inside, and you got the asics logo here on the other side of the foot. You got a nice green, lime green hit here on the midsole. You got this green accents on the outside of the sign, and then you got these silver bits on top of the white and the mesh on the top. So color combo wise, you got white, silver, green. You know, you can't really go wrong with that. And they look really cool. And then you've also got a hit here of the hidden stamp on the back as well, which is quite cool because they've included the grid, the kind of move signal, sorry, the move icon on Photoshop or Illustrator. If you use Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, you'd know that they've got that, you know, that kind of cursor, the move icon. So they included that around the logo on the back of the heel tab, which is quite a nice little hit for all you bedroom designers like myself out there. So pretty cool shoe, I have to be honest, especially considering some of the recent collaborations they've done before have been really terrible and really shit. And the fact that their page is incredibly reductive and boring, but it looks like over time they're getting there, and maybe now Hidden is going to turn into some sort of like design studio consultancy firm type of thing. So maybe it might lead to them improving their page, because the page is a little bit repetitive. So maybe because of the inspirations or because of the projects they'll be handed or projects they'll be working on, they might have to pull from different bits of inspiration that might inform the page and might kind of develop it taste-wise, viewpoint-wise into a wholly different affair. That might be the case. You never know. So let's read the article here, courtesy of Hypebeast. It says, after being teased at the end of 2023, the HIDDEN.NY GEL-NYC is nearing its launch with a complete breakdown of the new design revealed. The white, silver, green arrangement utilizes co-branding that references photo editing software with a digital version of the asics tiger stripes. Sizing handles around the HIDDEN.NY logo, matching the thematic shoebox. Release is expected to take place in March via HIDDEN.NY and asics. Stay tuned for details. So no idea when they're going to drop exactly. We got the March details here. We've also got a look on the box. As you can see here, it says asics and hidden on the inside of the box, and then you've also got the shoes featured there on the inside. So pretty cool, I think, in terms of shoes. I possibly wouldn't wear them because, you know, I don't try to wear stuff from brands that block me. So I'll probably not support in terms of wearing them. But in terms of being the hater, an unapologetic hater of Hidden, even I have to give them credit and say, you know what, they did a good job on these. I have to give them praise, give praise where praise is due, and say that Hidden did a fucking good job on these asics. So big up them for actually delivering for once, because that NERD collaboration is still, you know, it still gives me nightmares, as does the Needles one. But this is really fucking well done. Especially look at that toe box. That's fucking beautiful. You got the combination of green, silver, white on the toe box, and you've got different materials. You've got the mesh. I think that might be, I don't think that is silver, that might be patent. I don't think it's 3M. You got the mesh toe box, you got the silver accent, which is probably patent, leather here, and then whatever material is the midsole, maybe it's PU. That's a nice little kind of hit there combination. I fucking love it. So big up HIDDEN.NY. Love to see it. Love to see it. Hopefully this means the beginning of some nice things going forward, and not some of that dross that they were putting out before. Hopefully no more dross like they were putting out before. Next on the list, I was listening to Yeat new album 2093, and I don't know what to think of it. I don't know what to think of it. I really don't know what to think of it. I'm really kind of in two minds. Was it terrible and one of the worst albums Yeat's ever put out recently, or was it really good and really thematic and really kind of expansive and movie-like? I'm not really too sure. It didn't really immediately grab me like some of his previous projects. The production on it, I think, is really incredible. I still love how he uses his voice. It's really cool. But I almost feel like, because I feel like he's been incredibly hardworking, right? His output has been crazy. I feel like he's put out a project like every other year or something, right? Since he's dropped, or maybe even more than that. It's always putting out project, always putting out new things, turning around super fast. But I'm wondering, maybe, is he now starting to burn out in the same way that NBA Youngboy and a few other people have burned out over the years, where they put out so much stuff so quickly. Obviously, the fans love it. Obviously, it kind of boosts their profile. Obviously, it takes them from nobodies to somebodies in a short space of time. But musically, they always tend to suffer. The only person I think of who hasn't suffered like that was Future. When Future was on his crazy run, when he was dropping every fucking few months, it seemed like, you know, it just kept getting better and better. There was just more stuff. And I think even Metro Boomin the way says, like, you know, Future sits on like hundreds of hard drives full of unreleased music that is probably never going to see a light of day anytime soon. And obviously Gucci Mane's a good example of that as well. Exactly. Griffin Sizemore. Gucci Mane's a great example of it. But I feel like these kind of new age kids, they don't seem to be able to put out a lot of music and also have it be really of high quality. The only person I can think of who does it, and it's not even the same genre, might be Chris Brown. But Chris Brown's albums are just too long for most people. But I listen to them because I'm a fan of R&B and I love Chris Brown. But Chris Brown's albums are really good. You'll have like an album of like 30 plus tracks, I know, but majority of them are incredible. So I feel like it is possible to do, but I feel like a lot of these artists, especially when you think about the sound and the music and how they rap and how they construct songs, they might need a bit more time in between to let whatever they put out breathe or to find new inspiration. Because I feel like 2093 P2 by Yeat is not that good. But I'm not too sure if I just haven't listened to it properly because I had a hard time getting through it. I had to listen to it in bits. Also, it hasn't helped that I'm listening to this post Vultures 1 by Ye and Ty Dolla $ign, which legitimately might be one of the best albums I've listened to in a while. It's incredibly good. It's incredibly, you know, it's astounding how good that music is, especially when you consider that, you know, Ye is kind of blackballed industry wise. Not a lot of people really want to work with him because of all the shit he said before. He's not really that good for business. He's a bit ostracized from his writing crew. I think what's his face, Rhymefest doesn't work with Ye anymore. You can tell with the lyrics, the bars that Ye uses, you can tell he hasn't really got a lot of his friends around him anymore that are helping with the bars, like Rhymefest and a few other people, even like Black Thought. Those guys probably disagree with him too much politically, to kind of work with him ever again. That's why we get a lot of these silly bars from Ye. But silly bars aside, you can't deny that Vultures 1, the music is just A1. Forget who it is, forget the politics, forget everything. The music is A1. So maybe you're listening to that and then listening to Yeat, it's a little bit too much of a jarring contrast because he doesn't really say shit, right? I'm not saying nothing. It's not really going anywhere, but it's vibes, it's aesthetic music, but even the aesthetic isn't really that entertaining. I don't really know. But then, to be fair to him, the second half of the album is really fucking good. I swear to God, if you listen to it from track 11 onwards, it's really good. Really, 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 really good. Familia might be one of my favorite tracks on the second half, and fucking Run They Mouth. So the second half of the album is banging, but the first half is like, I'm thinking about it like, what the hell is going on? Even though the first half has all the hits on it, right? Like More, Breathe, Power Trip, Psycho CEO, all these are going to be hit singles going forward. I personally feel like the second half of the album is where it fucking picks up. From track 11 onwards, Tell Me, Shade, Never Quit, Keep Pushing, Riot and Set It Off, Team CEO, 2093, Stand On It featuring Future, A1, Familia, Mr. In Between It, Psycho Kane, Run They Mouth is my favorite track on there. Like, it's really good towards the end. So I don't know what's going on with Yeat. I don't know if he's fallen off. I don't know if it's just a consequence of putting out too much music. I don't know if it's because maybe the Yeat thing is just, the bubble's kind of gone and it's not the same anymore. I don't know what's happening. Or maybe he's just too rich. That could be another thing too. Maybe Yeat guy was legitimately struggling to fucking buy a sandwich, right? And he put together some of the most atmospheric, melodic, vibey, aesthetic, aura-based music you'd ever heard in your life. Now he's wearing fucking Elique's head to toe. He's got on Bottega Veneta boots, Gucci shades. He's traveling in Japan with with Zach Bia, busting down fucking Japanese hoes and shit, living in lavish hotels, getting his back blown out by Playboy Carti, living the life. Maybe that's why the music isn't hitting the same way. The hunger just isn't there, which is understandable, but it's just a shame because he's so young and he's so rich already. There's no going back now. Do you know what I mean? Once you start making that kind of money, there's no going back anymore. He's not going to be that hungry Yeat we all wanted to hear, but I'm happy for him because he's made his money and he's probably, set his family up for life and shit. But it's like, as a fan, it's like, the music just isn't hitting the same way. So unfortunately, I didn't really like that too much. Although I have to say, Idols have a new album at the moment. Idols have a really good album, which I really have enjoyed. Brittany Howard also, former singer of the band Alabama Shakes, has a new album out also that's pretty decent I've listened to. So I'll probably do reviews on them going forward. So check those out if you haven't already. Those two are really good. Next, we got this clip that features Skepta, which is a really interesting and really insightful and really eye-opening clip for me, because it kind of pushes me in the direction that I'm trying to go in. I've been a little bit apprehensive. I've been a little bit quote unquote scary to kind of go out there and do it again. And what I mean do it again, I mean promoting and putting on my own events, because technically, because just in terms of a, usefulness thing, the whole getting booked thing isn't happening anytime soon with me. I think I'll probably have to build up my profile, get to a point where my DJ mixes are getting hundreds of thousands of views and stuff, and then because of those views I'll just become undeniable. People just have to book me because I've just got views and people like what I do, similar to what Party Boy 69 did. So I could definitely do it the Party Boy 69 way, just kind of build my profile out that way, or I could do it the way that most people do it, which is kind of organize your own parties. You organize your own parties, you book yourself, which is kind of narcissistic, and then people can see you play. And then they'll be like, oh my God, that Agostinho guy, that big black guy behind the decks is pretty decent, isn't it? Right? And then they're suddenly going to book you. But I felt like this video from of Skepta talking in his interview really gave me a bit of encouragement in terms of just, maybe understanding that I probably do need to put on my own rave just so I can have a point of view out there, because I feel like the rave scene, especially in London, has become a little bit too queer, a little bit too like kooky, there isn't any space for like regular dudes like me anymore, you know what I mean? So let me play this clip and hear Skepta going, basically talking about, black people getting back into house music, basically. Let's play this clip and see what he says.
Music, you like house, you just haven't realised it yet. And bare young G's, think that they can't listen to house, innit? They're like, what's that? What's that? But this is the reference point, boom. Mass tempo, who's that? What, Skep and Jam? Yeah, I like that. Cool. That's like a whole wave of people might just try and listen to it, you know what I mean?
A lot of the shows that we've done, they just put the mic next to the deck. Sure.
Just in case!
I kept looking at the mic thinking they're going to understand soon. This is not about us rapping. This is about our skill as musicians and producers and DJ.
They're coming now and they're enjoying it, knowing that maybe they're not going to rap, but they're going to make us feel welcome. And
that's mad, isn't it? Imagine Skepta and Jam are putting on an event and the organizers put a fucking microphone next to the decks just in case, right? They're like, yeah, nah, these guys are gonna spit. That's kind of racist, isn't it? That is really racist. It's like them putting a bottle of Hennessy and Ray and Nephews in your rider, in your bucket right behind it. Because when you get booked as a DJ and you're like a big time DJ, you get like a bucket full of drinks behind the booth. It's like they automatically put Magnums in there, Ray and Nephews and fucking Hennessy. That's like, what are you trying to say? You trying to say because I'm black, I'm gonna drink that sort of shit? Like, get me some Chardonnay, man. Get me a fucking, you know what I mean? Get me some red wine. But yeah, I do agree with what you said. I think if you do like music, most people would like house music. I think that idea, for black people, especially in the UK, we have this really assertion to like oots music, right? Which is odd because of the history that black people have with dance music, electronic music to be specific. And when you think about it, especially nowadays, when you think of the prevalence and the popularity of flipping amapiano, you jump up, you crank up amapiano tempo a few bits and suddenly it's fucking house. It's fucking regular house music. Yes, it's a bit deeper melodic and slower. Listen to amapiano maybe 120 BPM and lower, but you pump up a little bit. It's just regular house music that you listen to in clubs. So it's really a shame that a lot of black people don't really identify themselves with the current club music that's out there at the moment, or maybe not feel uncomfortable. But it's also really annoying for me, being a non-queer, non-LGBTQ person. Obviously, I would say I'm an ally to those people and their causes. I'm definitely somebody that's going to champion that sort of stuff and be at the parties and, be a kind of a good member of their community, right? By just being there, like external community, extended community. But I find myself sometimes now being, I don't want to say overlooked, but you don't really see a lot of like emphasis being placed on people that look like me playing or being a part of that scene anymore, which maybe is a reason why I should go out there and do my own thing instead of complaining about it, which is what, most events are like that, right? Most events that start nowadays, even the ones that are like gay friendly, they start because you go out and you feel like no one's really speaking to you, no one's really like, you know, addressing your needs, no one's really communicating with your group of people, you don't feel comfortable in certain places, so you just set your own party up as a way to kind of like, you know, circumnavigate that thing and provide people that are like you a safe place that they can go to, quote unquote safe, to kind of party and have a good time. So maybe now, because there's more of a prevalence and more of an eye and more of attention in kind of bolstering flinter, queer, LGBTQ plus people, maybe I need to have to create my own little lane to kind of, you know, bring that kind of image of a regular hetero straight black guy behind a booth back in, because at the moment it's just not the thing anymore, you know. That's why I love what Skepta and Jam are doing with Mas Tempo. As much as maybe the music isn't for me, right, that melodic deep house stuff or the tech house stuff just isn't my vibe, I like the fact that these guys exist, and you're seeing Skepta behind the booth with the do-rag, with the fucking zoot in his mouth, Jammer, you know, off a couple of bumps, having a good time. I think that is amazing to see, because you don't really see that behind the booth. Behind the booth now, you see somebody, you see some girl in some weird long fur coat with like a weird kind of bra top and like crazy makeup and shit. Everybody looks fucking kooky and extroverted, which is what it is, cool. But it's not just like regular dudes like me anymore, right? Where are they? They don't exist anymore. You know what I mean? You have to have a bit of an angle. You have to have a bit of a kink, a bit of a quirk, right? I have to come in like wearing lipstick and wearing a wig to kind of get some of these gigs somewhere, which I understand, because I think for the longest time those people weren't really welcomed. I think, you know, when the whole like deep house, melodic house thing was really prevalent, right? It was, people like that felt uncomfortable to go in. That's the thing that is really, because I think, you know what, maybe I'm complaining about nothing, because I think it kind of levels itself out, because there was a time in club culture where if you walked in as a dude with like a bra top on, you know, and your thong showing, guys would make you feel uncomfortable in a club, call you names, maybe even physically assault you. Now you are going the opposite way, and basically you need to stand out even more. You can't just wear a thong going to a club if you're in that group. You want to really make a name. You know what I mean? Like everybody kind of does that. So maybe this is a kind of course correction over time. It will kind of level itself out a little bit. But I feel like nowadays I don't really see a lot of myself represented in clubs in general as being a black dude, just a regular dude that's just, you know, I'm into clothes and shit, but I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't want to get into the realm of trying to queer bait to get gigs, because that I think is really disgusting, right? Like it's one thing me going to these parties and being an ally and taking part in it, which already I'm kind of taking up space, you know, and I'm maybe being a bit of a distraction. I'm maybe taking away some of the energy there because they're all being free doing their thing, and I am like standing on the corner like a fucking bouncer, but I love the parties anyway. But it's another thing to go out there and queer bait and pretend to be part of that scene just to get gigs. I know there's some people that do that. I know there are some people that are queer baiting in the DJ scene and trying to make it seem like they are, you know, down to suck a dick, but they don't really suck a dick. They just look like they do, but they don't really. And I think that's the most disgusting thing you could ever do, especially, you know, when there's people out there that actually do and they want to play. You know what I mean? Give them space, give them room. But I think after seeing this clip, I'm going to make it more of a mission going forward. Of course, I need to increase the DJ mixes first of all. I haven't done it in a while, so expect those mixes to come out sometime within the next couple of weeks and stuff. I'll be doing more pirate studio mixes and shit, and just in general, just uploading random, because there was a point in time where I was doing a lot of like procrastinating. I was like, oh, if I can't DJ live stream at Pirate, then what's the point of just recording a mix at home and uploading on my SoundCloud? But that's not really the way to go. I should do what I was doing in the past. In the past, I was just recording mixes just for the sake of it. So most likely in the future, what I'll do is I'll have like a separate little kind of quote unquote radio show thing that I'll do, because I like to, you know, I don't really like playlists. I don't know about you, I fucking hate playlists, but I want to share some of the music that I do listen to and what I'm interested in, to kind of get my kind of point of view and taste out there, just for the sake of just wanking myself off and making myself look better than some people, because that's what the main thing is about, right? When you put together a mix, as much as you're doing it for the enjoyment of other people, you're doing it to kind of show off, right? Like, hey, look at me, I can DJ. Look at me, I know good music. Look at me, I'm cool. So I'm gonna be doing that anyway, right? Doing that radio show, and I'm also gonna be doing more mixes going forward. Even if I don't live stream them, I'll just put up mixes on my fucking SoundCloud and just put up a lot more, because I feel like at the moment I've just been a little bit lame. You know, I've been a little bit lazy. I haven't really been putting any any effort in putting out more mixes. I've been kind of just, you know, taking my foot off the pedal. So I really need to kind of do more in terms of, you know, pushing those mixes out there and making them available to people to listen to, because I want to put my point of view out there. And I think it's important for me to put it out there. And I can't just be complaining about things if I'm not offering something else as an alternative. You know what I mean? I need to offer something else. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And in case you want to check out my SoundCloud, I'll put the link in the I'll put the links in the chat so you can check out if you want to, and in the description as well. But I've got two. I've got my main one for my fake record label, which is Persistence Records. So if you go on soundcloud.com/Persistent Records, you'll find that. That's for my fake record label. You'll see all that there. And then I've also got my main one for my DJ page, which is going to be Handsome Black Man. But I think going forward, what I might do actually, I might just because I think persona wise, I want two personas. I want to have this Handsome Black Man DJ handle as like my party DJ kind of persona. And then I want to have just my name, Agostinho, be my other DJ name that I usually use for more techno based sets. That's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to have two different SoundCloud accounts. So I'm going to have this one, and I'm going to have the one just Agostinho, just for the whole techno thing. So check that all out. I'll put all the links in the description. If you're watching the live stream, you'll find the links in the flipping chat as well, so you can see them as well. But going forward, I'm going to do it because I feel like, you know, it's important that I put out my voice. It's important I let people know what I want, you know, and let them know that they, you know, there are quote unquote regular normal boys just like me out there who also want to play some of this music, and we just need a chance. But sometimes you have to make your own chances in life. You know what I mean? You have to make your own chances. You can't sit there and cry. And I'm not a crier, so let's not start today. Talking about crying and talking about DJing and talking about being black. Have you guys seen this? Have you guys seen this? Bobby Shmurda going crazy in some London club because allegedly he didn't get paid by a promoter. And he went absolutely nuts in the club, right? Like threatening to kill people and all that sort of shit. This clip is absolutely incredible. Let me play it for you. Big up the Shade Borough for posting it. Let me play this for you.
I Bobby, come here, man. I Bobby, come here. Come here. Let me chat. I Bobby, come here. Guys. It's calm, bro. I heard you.
Someone fell over. Bobby Shmurda in the vest. Going crazy. They're having it. More skirmish in the club. Bobby in the vest, chains on. What's up, nigga? What's up, nigga? Pushing people, shouting at people. So, I completely understand. If this is because of lack of payment, I completely understand. Being a up and coming bedroom amateur DJ myself, I've been in so many situations where I have not been paid. And I think some of you out there, guys who play in like bands and stuff, guys who've done open mics, some of you guys and girls out there, you'll know the pain of going to a nightclub, going to a bar where you've been booked somewhere and the promoter refuses to pay you. Sometimes they don't refuse to pay you. Sometimes it's not a refusal. Sometimes they run away from you. Big up my friend Miles, right? This guy Miles, who I used to do this party with called So Special. Big up you wherever you are. It was a very valuable lesson. One time we were doing So Special. We were kind of blowing up in that part of London at the time and really popular and whatnot. And we somehow got the attention of some big promoter guy in West London. And in Soho, to be specific. No, in flipping Leicester Square, that kind of area, right? Like those kind of fancy clubs where they have tables and shit. And they booked us for a gig. They're like, hey, we love your sound. We went to come and play in our party. We should have known it was a bit fishy from that moment. Because why would some random promoter of a swanky bar in London, in central London, want to get some of us guys in who are from like the fucking gritty part of like Dawson to go and party over there? There's no connection between the two places. They just went to obviously use our name, quote unquote, and obviously get the advantage of having our fans or quote unquote or our party attendees go there as well to kind of bolster the number. So it was serving their purposes mostly, except to us. We discussed payment. They were going to agree to pay us. I think the money was like £100 each or something. It wasn't anything crazy. It was like £100 each. So when you include having to travel there, when you include, you know, maybe your cab back, especially that in that time when we were doing it, there was no 24-hour tube line. So you had to usually get a cab back home. Because especially I live in like the depths of East London. So getting back from Central is really long. So, you know, you'd rather get a cab back. So when you include all those things, after all those costs, you're probably taking home £60, right? That's what you're probably taking back home. £60, if not 50. So it's not even like you're getting paid a lot. We play the gig, it goes well. The night itself is a bit shit because who wants to be in a Soho club with tables and stuff? We not really like it, but it was a busy night. It went well. Like it looked like there was a lot of people that turned up there. Then at the end, I'm like, oh yeah, to Miles, yeah, let's wait to get our money from so-and-so. And Miles just starts laughing. What do you mean? He's like, why are you laughing? He's like, Ag, we're not going to get our money, man. I was like, no. He said we should wait for him and he'll give us the money. He's like, bruv, he's not going to pay us. I was like, no, he's going to pay us. And half an hour goes by, another hour goes by. I start looking for him and I couldn't find him. And the club is tiny. It's like a Soho club. It's got a couple of levels, but it's like really small and just packed. I was like, where could he be? And I just couldn't find him anywhere. And then obviously later on, I just gave up and just decided to go home and we had no money. And I was fucking angry. I was so furious. I don't think there's no other pain or there's no other rage like somebody promising you money for services and then not giving you the money. That sort of anger and rage is like, you can't describe it. I went to fight everybody in that fucking club. So I leave and we don't get our money. But then I remember it happening a couple other times after that. And I remember, you know, sharing the story with other people and people saying, yeah, that's like a standard thing. That's what promoters do. I was like, oh, I didn't know this is a thing. So some promoters will do that. They'll just book you for a thing, knowing full well they're not going to pay you. Sometimes they'll look for an excuse. So if you turn up late, they'll just say, hey, you turn up late. That means you've got your fee docked and they'll pay you a certain amount, or they'll take the money off your final amount, or they just won't pay you at all. So they'll just use you for the fact that, hey, you can play for free. You might bring people in, which will help them, but then they'll keep all the money for themselves. Or sometimes, if they're honest, it'll just be because they didn't make enough money at the door. Oh, we didn't sell enough tickets, we couldn't break even, which doesn't happen, which is very rare. Very rarely will you find a really decent promoter who will tell you, hey, I know I booked you and I promised you a certain amount of money, but I can't pay you because we didn't make enough money on the bar, we didn't make enough money on tickets. That rarely happens. I think that's happened to me once, where a promoter's just been honest and said, look, we didn't make any money. But most of the time, promoters just run away. And they'll avoid eye contact, they'll avoid, you know, seeing you, or they'll keep, or it's that scene in Atlanta. Remember that scene in Atlanta where they're trying to get paid and the guy just keeps like walking away and keeps like, you know, motioning with his hands and stuff. It reminds me of that sort of thing. But the thing that I liked going forward, thinking about recently, was Americans. When you see girls doing walkthroughs in clubs, you see a lot of them at the end of the night carrying money, like cash. And I love that because I didn't know that was a thing, because even me as a small-time DJ, some places I play in pubs where they're paying you £100, £50, they'll make you send an invoice. They won't even pay you cash. They'll make you send an invoice. You know how dumb that is? It's £50. You can't take that out of the till. You don't have that in petty cash. So I love that in America, for the most part, you guys have a culture of like, no, give me fucking cash. Like even big time people, if they're getting booked somewhere, they want cash only. They don't like, that's part of their fucking requirements. If you want to book them, you go through their agent, you have it, you know, certain days in advance, you meet all their terms in terms of, you know, arrangement, travel things and whatever. And part of the arrangement for some people is that I need my money in cash, no wire transfer, no nothing, cash only. But that's something that doesn't really happen a lot in the UK. People don't really like to pay people in advance in cash, or when you get there in cash at all. That's why these situations happen. So even Bobby Shmurda, way more famous than I am, way more clouted up, has a name, has a reputation, right, as being a bit of a ragamuffin. Even he is susceptible to get scammed and to get hustled by promoters who basically will book you and then not decide to pay you when you're there. And again, I don't have, you know, I completely understand why he felt the way he did, wanting to fight everybody in the club and turn that place up. Like when you go, especially when you're at his level, yes, it's fun to go to a club. Yes, it's fun to drink. Yes, it's fun to kind of, you know, beat down some fucking slaws. But at a certain point, it then becomes a job. You know, you're only there because they're getting paid. You probably don't even like traveling to London. So, you know, you're in London now. You don't really like the city. Most Americans don't like London anyway because the food isn't that great. The weed here is a bit shit and overpriced. So you're having to travel to this country on a long flight from New York, 10 hours. You get here and then the person doesn't pay you. It's like, come on, do you know what I mean? Like, do me a fucking favor. So anyway, let's continue and let's hear... let's play a couple more videos where I think he explains it and we get a bit more detail on what actually occurred here. Let me play it for you one moment. Let me just get this up for you here so you can see Wagwan.
I just want to let you know, yeah, like for future, yeah, you shouldn't do this to people.
Well, I mean,
like you can't hold an event. Now, let me just finish, yeah. You can't hold an event, yeah, and not have money at the end of the night.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's wrong.
Exactly. Exactly.
Unfortunately, were out of control.
But then you should not let us know at the end of the night when you've already done everything.
Exactly.
You should have told us before the end of the night.
I can't tell you. I mean,
you can.
You can.
Like, at the beginning of the night, you should make sure that the money's there.
Stop recording. What are you recording for?
Because it's proof that you didn't pay him.
Exactly.
We're covering our artists.
Exactly.
Because our artist is now getting disrespected online. Like he can't do shows and stuff.
And again, what do you think it is about promoters that they're all like this? Doesn't matter what country you're in. Doesn't matter what race you are. Why is it that the promotion field just draws these certain dickheads, these certain guys with this certain attitude? Like look at him. It's his mistake, right? It's his error that leads to Bobby Shmurda freaking out in a club and going crazy. He's the one that fucked up. You should have been able to communicate with his team about the delays in payment. You should have had the money ready. You don't have it ready. And then now he's getting an attitude when I guess that's Bobby Shmurda's maybe UK handler, his manager or somebody including his team is basically, you know, telling them, hey, you fucked up. He's now getting offended and walking off and being rude. Like, what is it about the promotional industry or the promotive field that draws these type of people? Or is it the nature of the work that turns you into a dickhead? Or do you just have to be a bit of a dickhead? Or do you have to be a bit of a cunt to work as a promoter? Maybe you have to be a bit of a cunt to work as a promoter. Maybe you have to be a bit of an arsehole to be around these people night after night. It can get probably as exhausting as playing somewhere. But yeah, man, like, you know, Bobby Shmurda's not in the wrong here. It's the fucking promoter. Anyway, and then the next video here, we got another video where that features Bobby Shmurda actually explaining what happened. So I want to hear what he has to say from his own voice because that video wasn't good. I mean, it's like as a person said, it's going to cause reputational damage for Bobby Shmurda because it makes it look like he can't do any business. You can't do business with him, or he's going to freak out. It might be actually his first thing I've seen on video of Bobby's freaking out since he got freed, right? He hasn't really had any, you know, gangster, bad boy, skirmishes. He's kind of kept his nose clean. He had a bit of a passa with 6ix9ine for a bit, I think. I forgot who else. But so far, he's kept his head down. He's released some music. He's been flying around the world, fucking random white women. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's been loving life. So this is kind of bad to have this image out there like he's, you know, some ragamuffin when he isn't. He's just basically trying to defend himself and stick up for himself because he was booked for an event somewhere. The fee was agreed. The money should have been paid. So let's see what Bobby Shmurda has to say about the whole thing.
Hey, Shmurda on the set, Shmurda run that bitch. And to all my fans, I apologize for what happened tonight at Club Proud Late. He
doesn't even know the name. I love it. He doesn't even know the name of the club. Proud Late. He doesn't even know the name of it. I fucking love Bobby.
Money on time. I came in, I performed. Well, I wasn't supposed to perform in a contract, as you can see. It was just supposed to be a hosting. I came in, I did extra because I love my fans, you know what I mean? And they didn't pay the money. And certain things happening. I apologize for anybody who had to see that or anybody who was hurt in the mix of it.
So big up Bobby Shmurda. He got his money in the end. That's why he's smiling. That's why he's happy. Getting paid in pounds when you're American must feel so good, especially when it's cash. That stuff is fucking beautiful. So big up Bobby Shmurda. Hopefully he broke off all his employees and his team and they're eating good and living good. And it obviously makes up for the shitty food and the shitty weed we have here in the UK. That's probably the best thing. Good to see, but I completely understand his pain because I've been in situations where, you know, I've had promoters run off on me. Like, I'm sure he got paid thousands. I've had promoters run off on me on hundreds of pounds. £50 sometimes, run off, promoters running off, hiding in club bathrooms and staff rooms from me because they don't want to pay £50. I'm like, look, I paid my fucking 2-hour set of new disco, right? I played fucking, synth pop for 4 hours. Can you give me my fucking £100, please? So I can go buy a gram on the way home. Can you do that, please? Honestly, man, I hate fucking promoters and I wish they weren't all like that, but for some reason they are all like that. I don't know why. Let's move on. We've got this article courtesy of The Atlantic that I thought was really interesting and maybe spoke about a lot, or maybe reflects a lot of the things that I think about when it comes to socializing and hanging out. The title here is Why Americans Suddenly Stop Hanging Out, but I think this could be applied to any the world, right? Replace Americans with whatever country you're based in, because I think most places in Western Europe or in the Western world are suffering from this malaise where people just aren't socially hanging out and stuff. Maybe if you live in a place where you have a better standard of life or quality of life, maybe if the weather's better, it kind of increases your hanging out. But I feel like in the UK specifically, you have to plan a lot of your hangouts with your friends. They have to maybe be planned in advance. Nothing happens spontaneously. Everything revolves around drinking or eating or drugs. And it's just a bit annoying that we just don't have places just to go and hang out and socialize as people. And everybody's kind of glued to their phones, locked indoors, scared of COVID, or just fucking lazy. So let's hear what this article says, courtesy of The Atlantic, written by a writer called Derek Thompson. It starts off as follows. In its earliest decades, the United States was celebrated for its citizens' extroversion. Americans were just setting out to build new churches and new cities. Their associations were, as Alexei would put it, of thousands of different types, religions, morals, and serious, futile, very general, very limited, immensely large, and very minute. Americans seemed adept at forming social groups, political associations, labor unions, local memberships. It was as if the continent itself had imbued its residents with a vibrant social metabolism, a verve for getting out and hanging out. Nothing, in my view, Alexis wrote, deserves more attention than the intellectual and moral associations in America. Something changed in the past decades. After the 1970s, American dynamism declined. Americans moved less from place to place. They stopped showing up at their churches and temples. In the 1990s, the sociologist Robert Putnam recognized that American social metabolism was slowing down. In the book Bowling Alone, he gathered reams of statistical evidence to prove that Americans' penchant for starting and joining associations appeared to be in free fall. Book clubs and bowling leagues were going bust. That's a very good point. Book clubs. I used to be a part of a couple of book clubs, which would be no surprise to some of you based on the collection of books I have here behind me and just based on my demeanor and how much of a fucking dork and nerd I can be. I used to be a part of a couple of book clubs, but most of them are defunct. I used to be part of a zine exchange, right? A place where you'd go and hang out with people who make zines and you'd exchange them. You'd read certain zines, you might get someone to work on your zine. I was a part of all these little dumb little collectives and stuff and groups, and most of them are now defunct. You can't find any of them anymore, which is really sad, to be fair. Or they've moved online, or they've moved to fucking Discord as well, which is super depressing. Because, it's a book club and it's a zine thing. It should be tactile, you should be in person. Article continues. If Putnam felt the first raindrops of an antisocial revolution in America, the downpour is fully here, and we're all getting washed away in the flood. From 2003 to 2022, American men reduced their average hours of face-to-face socializing by 30%. For unmarried Americans, the decline was even bigger, more than 35%. For teenagers, it was more than 45%. Boys and girls 15 to 19 reduced their weekly outgoings by more than 3 hours a week. In short, there is no statistical record of any other period in the US history than when people spent more time on their own. Wow. So is that true that there's more, if you're unmarried, you hang out less than people that are married? Really? I thought it was opposite. I thought when you get married, you don't have any time for, it's just you and your wife or you and your family, and you kind of just focus on your own, especially if you've got kids and shit. There's no time to hang out with anybody. I didn't know it was the other way around. Okay. But I guess it means that if you're married, maybe it extends your social group, because by default, you might then become friends with your partner's friends, right? That might be a thing. So it continues. And so what? One might reasonably ask, a loneliness is not loneliness. Not only that, but one might point out the texture of aloneness has changed. Solitude is less solitary than ever, with all calling with all the calling, texting and emailing and work chatting and DM and posting, we are producing unprecedented terabytes of interpersonal communication. If Americans were happy about themselves, about their friends and about their country, then whining about parties of one would feel silly. But that's probably a COVID thing as well, right? I think COVID made all of us way more, what's that thing called? Self-reliant. We became a lot more comfortable in our solitariness, right? If that's a word. We became a lot more comfortable being on our own. I think for myself, I've always been a loner. I've always been a lone wolf, which has been both a blessing and a curse. But I felt like with COVID, it probably exasperated it and made it worse. Because I had every excuse not to go out, because I'd always look for an excuse to flake. I'd always look for an excuse to cancel. I've always looked for an excuse not to go anywhere. And then COVID gave me the perfect excuse, the perfect cover, you know? Even though I wasn't as scared of it as I made it seem, I was definitely using it as an excuse not to do anything. And then that kind of carried on after COVID ended, because most of the work that I do and the jobs I've had in the last few years have basically required me to work remotely, and I don't need to leave my house. So I don't leave my house unless I'm going to go visit my family or, you know, hang out with the wife and children and shit. So that's basically what I do. I just stay at home. So I think that's what's basically made things way worse for me, really. Way, way, way worse. But hey, let's go on. But for Americans in the 2020s, solitude, anxiety, and dissatisfaction seem to be rising in lockstep. Surveys show that Americans, and especially young Americans, have never been more anxious about their own lives or more depressed about the future of their country. We're all walking around depressed and anxious-ridden, anxiety-ridden and depressed. God almighty. No wonder people are... You know what? This explains the hate online. This explains the hate. I felt like now... Maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic, but I felt like nowadays there's way more vitriol. It's way more venomous. It's way more mean-spirited, some of the things you see online. That might be as a consequence of people feeling way more anxious and depressed in general. So you take it out on fucking, like Olivia Rodrigo. You take it out on Kylie Jenner. You take it out on Kim Kardashian. You take it out on Brendan Shaw. You know what I mean? Because you're so fucking depressed and angry and anxious about your own life. You're like, oh, fuck this guy and his t-shirt off again. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's what you're seeing online now. People are really, really mean. Teenage depression and hopelessness are setting new annual records every year. The share of young people who say that they have a close friend has plummeted. Wow. The share of young people who say they have a close friend has plummeted. Jesus. I wonder if that's a thing. I wonder if people have a statistic. I wonder if there's less kids nowadays who say they have a best friend than ever before. That might be a thing, you know. Best friends probably don't exist anymore. Americans have been so depressed about the state of the nation for so many consecutive years that by 2023, NBC pollsters said, we have never before seen this level of sustained pessimism in the 30-year plus history of the poll. We're all pessimistic cunts. We're all pessimistic cunts. That's what we are. That makes so much sense, right? Pessimism is at an all-time high. Cynicism is at an all-time high. Hating is at an all-time high. People are now getting fucking contracts from streaming companies and from like podcasting companies to be full-time haters. Full-time pessimists, you know? Oh, God almighty. I don't think hanging out more will solve every problem, but I do think every social crisis in the US could be helped somewhat if people spent a little more time with other people and a little less time gazing into digital content that's designed to make us anxious and despondent about the world. But unfortunately, that isn't going to change. I know people say we should spend less time on our phone, but let's be real. That's why I say all the time about my buying book addictions, right? I've already got 2 here that I still haven't kind of read or teared through at the moment, right? I've got the autobiography, one of the autobiographies by Moby called Porcelain, and I've also got this book here called A Very Important People by Ashley Mears, which talks about the party scene and stuff, right? I know I'm a addict of book reading, but I don't encourage people to read books. I don't use my my book habit, buying my reading habit as a way of like intellectually masturbating myself. I don't try and make it look like I'm better than people. Even though when I read outdoors on my own, I'm in a bar reading my book, you know, at some cocktail bar next to some candlelight, I feel like a fucking intellect and I feel fucking smart and shit. I don't encourage everyone to do it because I feel like this is so archaic, this is so old school that most people could never do it. And most people can't because unfortunately we get to a point, especially our attention spans are nowhere near where it needs to be to sit down and read a book for half an hour. Or even myself, I love reading books, and I find it hard to sit and read a book for an hour without touching my phone. I'm always kind of itching to check in because I don't have my notifications on. I'm always kind of because I find nowadays, I don't know if you guys are the same. I find that because I don't have my notifications on, I check my phone way more. You know, do you know what I mean? My phone's always on silent. There's no notifications, no banners, no nothing. But because of that, I feel like I check it way more. So it kind of doesn't really work, right? Because I want to not have notifications, not to check my phone, but I check it more because I don't have notifications on. So even I find it hard as a bookworm, as a somewhat quote unquote, you know, fake fucking intellectual. I find it hard to read books. So I think most people will find it literally impossible. But I just think it's not ever going to go back. It's never going to go backwards. Like, it's only going to get worse, especially we've seen now with the Apple Vision Pro. It's only going to get worse. So we have to find a way to kind of manage it. But this idea that we are all going to unplug and we're all going to start using phones that don't have, you know, screens and are not smartphones and just you use it for text and calling, it's like, come on, man. Come on, bro. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's a bit too late now. The horse has bolted. Let's continue. And the fucking fence has completely been obliterated. Let's go. So this young century, Americans have collectively submitted to a national experiment to deprive ourselves of the camaraderie in the world of flesh and steel, choosing instead to grow and grow and grow the time we spend by ourselves, gazing into the screens wherein actors and influencers often engage in various acts of physical proximity that we deny ourselves. It's been a wild experiment and the results haven't been pretty. To get a crystal clear picture of how hanging out has dissipated in America, I spent the last week spelunking. I don't know what that word is. Spelunking inside the American Time Use Survey. I never heard of the word. What's all spelunking mean? What does that mean? Spelunking. The exploration of caves, especially as a hobby. Okay, cool. I never heard of that term. Spelunking. How do you pronounce that? Spelunking. Okay, cool. I spent the past week spelunking inside an American Time Use Survey, an annual government poll of how people in the US spend their days. Economists at the ATUS carefully track time spent socializing, meaning face-to-face interactions for more than a dozen demographics. Broadly, real-world socializing has declined for both men and women, for all ages, for all ethnicities, and for all levels of income and education. So socializing face-to-face, people are saying spelunky means ass play, lols. Actually, that would be actually a new gay term, innit? Because I feel like all the gay terms are overused now. They all become corny. I don't know if I've got any members of the LGBT community in my fucking chat right now, but all these everybody's saying yas, everyone's saying mother, everyone's saying it's giving. All those terms they've been killed, they've been commoditized, they've been normalized, right? Normied. Like, we need some new hot gay terms, right? And maybe spelunking is one of them. Babe, you're spelunking right now. I want to spelunk. You know what I mean? Let's go spelunking, you know, whatever. There should be something there. There's something there. So socializing has declined all across the board. Men and women, it's all gone down. Although COVID-19 clearly decreased time alone, these trends predate pandemic. Oh, interesting. So it's not because of the pandemic. The steepest declines have been among young people, poor people, and Black Americans. Wow. Us Blacks are antisocial. We're prone to violence. We love fucking twerking, chicken, watermelons, illegal guns, having kids outside of wedlock, multiple baby mothers, and we also are loners. Love it, love it. Black people have all the ingredients necessary to be like mass shooters, but we're not really mass shooters, you know what I mean? Black people growing up in poverty, growing up around crime, right? Like, all that sort of stuff should really, you know, mean that you are susceptible to like be a mass shooter, but most mass shooters are white, and most mass shooters come from like decent, you know, backgrounds, decent neighborhoods, you know, affluent families. So it's really interesting how that works, isn't it? You don't really see a lot of like Mexican and Black fucking, you know, Hispanic mass shooters or Black mass shooters, really, which is odd. But let's continue. The steepest declines have been among young people and poor people and Black people. Women and 20-somethings enjoy the most social time in a given week, and low-income, middle-aged, unmarried men seem to get together less. That is true, actually. I think all the women I know in my life still have the same friends, still meet them after work, have drinks, go to eat some food, go shopping, just go to each other's houses to shoot the shit. Like, women haven't changed. I think women socializing is something men should aspire to, because women can just hang around with each other without it being a thing, without it involving shots or beers or baggies of drugs. It's just hanging out. I don't think guys have that ability anymore, unfortunately. For most groups, the decline was staggered before accelerating in 2015. Beyond in-person hanging, several other forms of socializing have declined by about a third in the past 20 years, including the share of Americans who volunteer and share of Americans who attend religious services over the weekend. One of the more curious trends to jump out of the data is that many Americans have traded people for pets. Now, that is depressing. That is super depressing. One of the most curious trends to jump out of the data is that many Americans have traded people for pets in our social time. So people, like, Jesus Christ, bro. I don't blame some people. Again, as much as I hate dogs and shit, I don't blame people who do replace people with pets, because humans are fucking annoying. And pets are, loyal and loving to a level that a human sometimes can never usually match. Even your own parents, even your siblings couldn't match the level of love a dog or a cat can give to you. So I understand, but that is super depressing that people are, replacing pets with actual interaction with real life human beings. It continues. The average time that Americans spend with their pets has roughly doubled in the last 20 years. Both because more people have adopted pets and because they spend more time with them. In 2003, a typical female pet owner spent more time socializing with humans than playing with a cat or dog. By 2022, this flipped, and the average woman with a pet now spends more time actively engaged with her pet than she spends hanging out face to face with fellow humans on any given day. Wow. To be honest, if you have time to set up a separate Instagram account for your pet, you probably don't like hanging out with humans. Let's be honest. If you have a separate Instagram account for your pet where you where you write captions in your pet's voice in like third person or something, right? Or whatever, you probably don't have friends. You probably don't want friends. You probably spend most of the time by yourself and you love it. Like, that's probably what happens now. And I think most of my friends that I know that have pets have a separate social media account for their pet, and it's got like thousands of followers. So, you definitely are creating bespoke content. I mean, you're doing photo shoots. People that do that don't have time to meet someone for a drink. Fucking hell. The hangout depression is particularly bad for teenagers. According to ATUS, teens and young adults saw by far the largest dip in socializing, especially since 2010. In fact, it's genuinely difficult to find any category of play that isn't experiencing some kind of mayday descent among the groups. Teens are dating less, playing fewer youth sports, spending less time with their friends, and making fewer friends to begin with. In the late 1970s, more than half of the 12th graders got together with their buddies almost every day. By 2017, only 28%. God damn. There's very clearly been a striking decline in in-person socializing among teens and young adults. Whether it's going to parties, driving around in cars, going to a mall, or just anything that has to do with getting together in person, says Jean Tweng, the psychology professor at San Diego. I know for me, in the UK specifically, the reason why a lot of kids don't really hang out is because there's not a lot of places that they can hang out. So when I was growing up, we had these things called youth clubs. When I was growing up, we had after school clubs and we had youth clubs. After school clubs basically were, they basically opened the library until like, let's say 6 p.m. So maybe your school closes at 3. They open the library from 3 to 6, and it just allow people to kind of use the internet as much as they want, fool around. They might let you have a speaker. They might put out some biscuits and some drinks and shit, and that'll be about it. And that was a way to kind of support kids who maybe had parents that worked many jobs, maybe who didn't have any parents, just to kind of give them something to kind of distract themselves so they didn't have to go straight from school to home and kind of, get depressed again. Then you had youth clubs on top of that. So you had the after school club, which was you being in school. And then you also had a youth club. A youth club would be like a center where essentially there'd be like youth activated events in there. There'll be a snooker table. There might be a sports hall. There might be a studio there for you to make music and shit. And might be like a little trade craft class in there. All these really cool things that you can do to keep youth engaged. And those are usually in like really disadvantaged neighborhoods, right? To kind of keep the youth off the streets. But for some reason over the years, they cut funding for those things. So the funding went for those things. So now there's no after school clubs. There's no youth clubs. So those same kids that still need that kind of attention, need that kind of care, need those kind of distractions to keep them off the streets, because there are some kids out there who will inevitably end up being a bad kid, like a, you know, gangster, wherever it may be. But kids like myself, who I wouldn't say I was naughty, but I was susceptible to bad influences. Like I could easily get fucking roped into something because I was just hanging around. But because I always had distractions of like after school clubs and youth clubs, I avoided becoming a part of a gang. I avoided going to prison. I avoided all these fucking crazy shit just because I was occupied. That was it. Not because I was special, not because I was super smart, but because I was just occupied, you know, on, you know, fucking talking to random girls in chat rooms in some internet cafe somewhere, right? That was what kind of kept me occupied. We don't have that anymore. So that kind of, you know, leads to kids being more outside. Being more outside leads to kids, you know, kids already are frustrated and bored and shit. They do dumb stuff and there we go, they're in trouble. So I really do wish there was more of an avenue or more of a place where kids could kind of let some steam off and those type of things, and it could be more encouraged instead of having people just go straight from school all the way to home. It's, you know what I mean? It's like you're going from school straight to your phone, straight to home, locked in again, not really socializing with people, and it's not really allowing you to develop or to mature in any kind of meaningful way or become a valuable member of society. I asked Twing or Twenge, or however you pronounce this person's name, if she should identify large differences by gender or ethnicity among teenagers. She pulled data from the University of Michigan Monitoring of the Future, a decades-old survey of teens, which we've used to make the following chart. The first flow of the share of 12th grader boys and girls who say that they go to friends with 2 or more times a week. From 1976 to 2022, the number of socializings fell by a similar figure, about 30%. Hangouts declined a bit more among black teens and white teens. So everybody's hanging out less, which is super depressing. I feel like nowadays, what I've seen, like I said before, is that I've seen more people having to be active in their hanging out and have to be purposeful, having to kind of, you know, basically create calendar invites for their hangouts ahead of time, to schedule people in, to make sure people kind of attend and go to these sort of thing, which is incredibly depressing. So that spontaneity is kind of gone. And especially in a city like London, I feel like whenever I've traveled to places that are a bit warmer or places that have a bit more of a social aspect, like even if I go to places outside of London, I go to Liverpool, I go to Manchester, I'm going to Newcastle next actually very soon, but all those places in the north where they're a bit more family orientated, they're a little bit more friendship group orientated, it's so different from London on the weekends. You go out there on the city centre in Manchester and you'll see groups of people. Like you'll see a whole family going out together for dinner. You see a whole group of girls going out together for drinks, similar with boys. But in London, you see loads of groups of like 2 or 1 or 3 people. That's it, like strangers. Never really groups of like big friends or family. And so everyone's kind of individual. So I feel like maybe London specifically has that issue because everyone's kind of individual and life here is really hard and people are struggling. But then I feel like, you know, that kind of funneling the hangouts only in bars and restaurants also doesn't help things, because I feel like in the recent years there's been a big trend in people, especially my friends in my social group, who have kind of gone off drinking and doing drugs. So a lot of my friends during the pandemic, or maybe just because they just grew up, decided, hey, I'm not really into the raves anymore. Because even I found myself, even though I go to a lot of parties by myself anyway, I found that even the friends that I did go to parties with have completely been disinterested and turned off from going to parties. They don't care about festivals, they don't care about raves anymore. So those groups of people are completely gone from the clubbing scene. They've completely disappeared. So have a lot of the young kids. Sometimes you go out, you see some young kids, but there's a lot of young kids that don't go to raves at all. So it's a weird mix of people that you see when you go out. A lot of like delinquents and druggies and alkies like myself, but you don't really see a lot of fresh new people anymore, or the people you used to see before in the past. So if you are that person who doesn't drink, who doesn't do drugs, who doesn't want to be in a bar also, it's really difficult to kind of see your friends because that's all they do, you know? So it becomes, and people don't really go to each other's houses anymore either. I feel like people are a little bit more protective of their own personal space. So it's a difficult situation to be involved in, but I feel like if anything, the best thing to come out of it is that you now know who your actual friends are. So even though you don't have as big as a group as you probably did have pre-pandemic, the friends that you do have, even if it's one, you know that that's your fucking friend, that's your ride or die, because, you know, you still keep in touch, you're still familiar, you hang out from time to time, whatever it may be, because all those kind of like, you know, loosey-goosey here and there friends have gone. So the ones that are left should be your real ones, but it's just a shame that kind of spontaneity, that kind of randomness of friendships and hanging out and stuff has completely gone. And now people are legitimately scheduling times where they can hang out with their friends, like they're doing a fucking meeting at work. That is really, really depressing. But, you know, I guess it's the nature of the game. I guess that is the nature of the game. Moving on from this, quickly went to mention this. I wonder, what is it about some women, young women especially, attractive young women, who love to do this sort of stuff? Like, just remind men where they're at. Just remind men, humble them, bring them back to square one, bring them back down to earth. Because in this particular picture here featured on the page, you see a picture of Mulatto and Quando Rondo. It's an old picture, right? Because I think they look a bit younger than what they are now. And she's put in the caption, or she put, I think maybe in the comments, didn't hit though. So Mulatto's sitting on Quando Rondo's lap, looking really cute with a little dog in her hand. They're both smiling. Quando Rondo looks really happy to be there. And I guess people were assuming or thinking, oh, maybe Quando hit back in the day. But it doesn't matter if he did or didn't. It's just, why do you need to clarify this, Mulatto? You know, Lato, come on. Let the guy have his little time in the sun. She also looks spectacular in the picture, right? She looks really, really good here. She always looks good, don't get me wrong, but she looks really good here. He looks really good. It kind of serves both purposes. The picture makes it look like maybe he might have hit. You look really cute in the picture. Why do you care if people think he hit or not? Why do you have to clarify that? And I mean, it's so unnecessary. Just let the guy have his time in the sun. You have the ability. You also have your little time in the sun because you look really good in the picture. Like, what is a problem with this? I don't really understand how people or some women love to clarify these sort of things. Just to bring a guy down and to remind him to kind of relax and settle down. It's like, come on, man. You're just having some fun. Kind of guy put up a picture and just kind of say, hey, you know, here's me and Lato back in the day, and just leave people to kind of assume things. Isn't that okay? Play into the fantasy a bit. Because if he didn't hit then, he's not going to hit now. That's fair enough. But come on, man. Don't piss on my chips. Don't piss on my chips, man. Let me breathe. Let me breathe, Lato. Come on, let me breathe. So big up Lato for clarifying that he didn't hit and making it sure, making everybody aware that that is not the case. That is not the case. You fucking love it. You have to flipping love it. You really, really do. Move on. We got this article courtesy on TMZ. RIP to Sean Evans, TMZ host, and his girlfriend. They unfortunately has broken up. Love is officially dead. My reasoning of focusing on this article or this story is the following. What is it? What is with these guys' infatuations nowadays with like porn stars and stuff? Like being in a relationship with them. Like, when did that happen? I've never been somebody that's been overly drawn or attracted to porn stars in that way, right? They kind of are like a utility, right? They have like a like in terms of like you getting a nut or busting a nut, sorry. But apart from that, I've never really thought about a porn star outside of me maybe watching porn for a specific reason. But nowadays, I feel like guys are like really in love with porn stars, like to the point where they want to be in a relationship with them, which I feel like is obviously very it's difficult to do because of the nature of their work. It's hard, and it's also, you don't want to be the guy that's kind of coming in saying, hey, stop doing the thing that you enjoy to do and be in a relationship with me, because that seems like, you know, it's a recipe for disaster. So I don't really have an opinion on the work line of work itself. I think everyone should be free to do what they want. You shouldn't judge somebody based on the fucking occupation they have. But I just find it strange that guys go out of their way to date people in that industry, then get surprised when they do things that people in that industry do, or then get ashamed when it gets exposed to the public and stuff, because that's kind of what happened. It feels like, from what I've been able to glean online, it seems like the Sean Evans guy from Hot Ones and this girl had been dating for a while. I guess he told her, hey, don't make this public. This is like a low-key thing. I want to keep my private life private, and you're very public and people know you, so I don't want everyone to kind of know. Just keep it to yourself. She was okay with that in the beginning, but then over time, as most women are, she got bored of hiding her boyfriend, and she posted him on social media during the Super Bowl weekend. And I guess he didn't like that because it was a rule that she broke, and obviously he broke off the relationship. Some people are adding to it and saying that maybe it's because Adam22, the fucking clout demon, jumped on the back of it and made a tweet like, oh, it was so good fucking your girlfriend, because I think he filmed some footage with this girl and his wife back in the day. and maybe Sean Evans doesn't like Ellen 22 and was a bit weirded out by being an Eskimo brother with him, and that's why he broke it off. But most likely it's the first reason. Most likely they had a conversation, they had some sort of agreement where he was like, hey, I don't want my relationship on social media. She broke the rules. He got personally offended and kind of broke it off. So pretty normal. But I just think I'm just more surprised at nowadays it being a thing where guys are actively trying to get in a relationship with porn stars. I just think it's almost like similar to like, you know, when they tell women not to date athletes and stuff because they have so many options and they have so many distractions and shit, and it's impossible for them to be like faithful. It's the same thing with porn stars, you would imagine. That sort of lifestyle is just difficult to have. Not even forget the unfaithfulness because that's just a job, but it's just more so that lifestyle is just difficult to have somebody decide to just sit down and become like a housewife sort of thing. I know it does exist. There are some extremes of women who just decide to quit completely adult entertainment and commit to their husband or whatever and just be a housewife. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like the type of person in that industry who would be willing or able to kind of sit down and have a quiet, non-public life or non-public relationship. It has to be public because everything they do is sort of public. So it's no surprise that this kind of ended the way it did. But I thought about myself. I was like, you know what? I'm really thankful. And again, I'm just lucky. It's not anything special about me that I've never been the kind of guy that has like fantasized about being in a relationship with a porn star, has fantasized about being in a relationship with a really, really young woman. Like those are two things that I've just never cared about, you know? And I think most guys do. I think most guys do probably secretly wish that they could, you know, save a porn star, that they could, you know, most guys probably wish that they could, you know, be dating some super hot cheerleader or something. It's like, I've never understood the infatuation with a guy that's like 45, you know, having a girlfriend that's like 25. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's hard enough talking to your little brothers or nieces and nephews. Imagine dating somebody that's like, you know, double, you know, 20 years old, younger than you and something. It's just like, I can't imagine what that must be like day to day. Of course, outside of the physical attraction and the sex will be amazing. I understand what that's what people like, but day to day, like, what are you guys discussing over the phone? What are you guys talking about? What are you texting about? Like, I really do wonder. But let's read the article anyway. It says, not the best timing for Valentine's Day. Hot Ones host Sean Evans and porn star Melissa Stratton broke up less than 24 hours after the relationship made headlines. Sources close to Melissa tell TMZ that Sean called up. Oh, see, this is why they broke up. She's in communication with TMZ directly. Imagine he said, hey, I want my relationship to be private. And then she's talking to TMZ directly. This is the complete opposite of being fucking private, isn't it? But then again, I feel like as a guy, you have to be a monster to tell a girl not to post you on their social. That is a level of control, a level of authority, or you know, a level of authority on somebody that you shouldn't probably do, and it's not going to end well. I think it's impossible for a woman not to post you on their social if you're in a relationship. And I just feel like you're a piece of shit if you're a guy and you do that to somebody. Fair enough if you don't want to put them on your social, that's your social media. But trying to control somebody else's social media is odd. Like what, she has to hide you when she's recording an Instagram story, or you have to hide off camera and stuff. Like, it's so unnecessary. Like, you cannot want to put it on, you know, you cannot want to tag them in pictures or whatever. Fair enough, but that level of control on somebody else's socials is just odd, man. Especially now that we're all kind of mini brands and we all have our own quote unquote platforms, you know, and Valentine's Day, especially for people on social media, like especially a certain breed of girls, they just love it. You know what I mean? They love to just show people that they're in love. They love to show people that, oh, there's someone that means something to me. She's seeing all her friends on her feeds sharing stuff. She probably just got, oh, I want to share something. And then she put it out and then suddenly her relationship's over. But you can't be also in communication with TMZ. That's a bit, you know what I mean? So, Sean called her up on Valentine's Day. That is lethal. Breaking up with a girl on Valentine's Day is fucking, that takes some balls. And broke up with her, telling her he wanted to call it quits because of the media attention that they were getting. Also, just because he's into a porn star, would you say he's a freaky guy? I don't think so. I just think there's a breed of dudes out there who see porn stars as projects in the same way that women see bad boys and gangsters as projects. I think there's some guys out there who just legitimately, they fall in love with porn stars the same way women fall in love with fucking drug dealers. I don't think it means he's freaky. I don't think so. I don't think because he's into a porn star, he did some wild shit. I just feel like he just liked her for her. He saw something special in her. He wanted her to be his girlfriend, and she blew up the spot. Which is weird. How can you blow up the spot if you're someone's? But it's just, anyways, whatever. We're told Sean expressed to Melissa he wanted to keep his love life more under wraps. Even though they got all these pictures. What our sources say, Melissa found Sean's reasoning odd for a few reasons. He knew what she did for a living. They started seeing each other, and he invited her to multiple public events in Las Vegas leading up to Super Bowl and took part. Exactly, but that's the thing that makes it legit then. He was okay with her taking pictures for herself. He was okay being seen with her in public. He just didn't want it to be in the papers. And Sean Evans, he's famous, but he's not that famous, right? He's not that famous. People are going to be digging through his rubbish to find out who he's dating. But when it's all over the media outlets, it's a bit much. I mean, I understand his reservations, but I also understand her being a regular woman that wants to share her boyfriend with the world, isn't it? And the fact that she's in love and she's happy, like, that's not a bad thing. But she definitely fumbled. She should have chilled out a bit. Wow, she's got like 3 Cartier bracelets on. Fucking hell, she's living well, innit? And a Rolex. God damn. TMZ was first to report that Sean and Melissa's relationship after she shared series of photos of them at the Super Bowl. We broke the story on Monday, and he broke up with her the following day. I hope she got a lot of money from this, man. Hope it was worth it, bro. You destroyed your relationship over a TMZ article. Our sources say Sean was fine with Melissa posting photos of them on their Super Bowl adventures. Another reason it was caught off guard here. No, he wasn't fine at all. We're told Melissa is sad. Things are over because she believed that they really did have a genuine spark, but she has a hunch Sean was feeling pressure from his side once the relationship went public. Yeah. He's just a good boy, isn't it? He's just a good boy. He didn't like all that media attention and thought, I just couldn't imagine having the guts to break up with a girl on Valentine's Day. You have to be cold-hearted to do that, bro. Imagine the text you have to send. Like, imagine the chain. Imagine in the morning you text your girl, hey, happy Valentine's Day. And then there's some bubbles, and then after those bubbles, you break up with them. That is a savage list of fucking bubbles. Like, I couldn't do that, man. I'm a cold-hearted guy, but I couldn't do that. I'd have to wait at least the next day, at least the end of the week. Like going from like Happy Valentine's Day to like or what you could do is just ghost them. That might be a way. Just ghost them, which is probably more savage, right? Imagine have people done that? It must be a thing. People have done that, right? They've probably ghost divorced. They've probably did a ghost divorce instead of saying they want to be divorced from the person. They just stopped replying, or they just left home and didn't come back. And then the next thing the wife or the husband sees is a letter coming through the post with the divorce papers. I'm sure that's a thing. I'm sure that's happened before. Someone just woke up one day, said, no, I've had enough, walked out on the family, not said a word to their partner, and just let everything go through the lawyers. That is savage. Oh. Anyways, continuing on. I thought this post was really fucking something, right? Big up the person who posted this on Twitter. Babe, wake up. Someone's 9/11 just happened. Or just dropped. And I think this is courtesy of I don't know where this is. Maybe it's a LinkedIn post or something. But somebody random posted this on social media and said the following. I saw everyone's salaries at my company. I work for a company with less than 60 people. I was talking to our HR person about something else, and they mistakenly shared their screen with everyone's salaries. I took a screenshot, and now I know I get paid the least in my team. I feel super demotivated and a bit angry since I've been working here since we had 5 people. What do I do with this information? On my life, I swear to God, this is probably one of the worst things that could ever happen to you in a workplace. I've always said, especially in the UK, there's not enough transparency when it comes to pay. Everybody's very secretive, and I think companies prey on that because people are very secretive. People don't want to say things. They're very coy about their salaries. People get shafted all the time. So I've been in places where, most of my experience is like customer service, online, marketing, community management, social media management, all that sort of stuff, right? And I can swear hand on heart, I've worked in 3 different companies as a social media manager. And at one company, my salary was like 27,000 a year. At one company, it was 37. Another company was 47. Each company, it was the same level of responsibility, same level of demands placed on you. It's not like I'm doing more work. But at one place I got paid 27, one place it was 37, one place it was 47, which makes you know that salaries are just made up. You can negotiate whatever the fuck you want to negotiate, but you can only know what to negotiate if you know what generally people in your job or in your fucking career of choice are getting. If you don't know, you have no reference to fucking negotiate. When you walk in and they offer you 37 grand and you were on 27, to you that feels like you're on 100,000. You're like, oh my God, you get fucking gassed. When really, it's not really that much because the person before that left or got fired was on fucking 50,000. So sometimes it can be a real curse to know what your colleagues get, because it can completely alter the way you look at your job to the point where you don't want to be there anymore. That's the problem with it. So I think nowadays it's probably more important than ever for people to be more open and to be more honest about what they get paid, because it's really important that we all know what the current market rate is for certain people in certain roles, so that people can negotiate salaries effectively. Because especially in the UK, companies are preying on people not sharing things because everybody's very private and doesn't want to reveal certain things. But in the end, you're the one that suffers. And honestly, in my experience, once you find out somebody is getting paid more than you, doing the same job than you, and also they're not that much better than you, you can never look at that same job again. It does, as that person says, it's incredibly demotivating. It makes it almost impossible for you to work normally again. You can't stop thinking about it all the time. And it always happens to people who do more than they're meant to do. It always happens to those type. I don't know why. It always happens to people who go above and beyond. The kind of people who turn up early, who leave late, who take work home. Those are the ones that get shafted the most, which is annoying, because you'd imagine people that do that sort of stuff would get, compensated better, because in a fair world, a company would see that you're doing way more than you need to do. They'd recognize it and be like, hey, let's give you a promotion. You know what's funny, actually? Listen to this. I've just thought this now. I think I've had way more acknowledgement of my hard work and people giving me a promotion, even if I haven't asked for it, in the service industry via the corporate office world. You know what I mean? So I've worked in the shoe shop before as a weekend staff member. The managers liked how I've worked and be like, hey, I want to offer you a full-time contract. That technically is a promotion. That's happened more working retail than ever in the office. No one ever in an office has ever come up to me and said, oh, we love how you work. We love the quality of your work. We love that it's always on time. We love this. We love that. And now we're going to give you a promotion. I have to go and ask for the promotion myself. I have to demand it in a meeting or whatever. But in retail, in the service industry, working in bars, whatever, I've gone from a bar back to a bartender to this or that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get rewarded on the spot. Somebody will recognize your hard work and say, you know what, I like how you work. You should become an assistant manager. You should become a key. All this sort of stuff happens. But it never happens in the office space. Office space, if you go in there and they fucking undercut you and they give you a shitty salary, you're on that salary until you end, until the fucking time you leave. Sometimes they won't even give you a promotion. So you have to be attuned to type of things. And I really do wish there was more fucking transparency across salaries in different industries, and we were more honest about what we got so that we could help each other out. But I guess, workplaces, it's a bit dog eat dog. Everybody's afraid of losing their job and not speaking too much about certain things. I don't really know. I fucking hate it personally. I wish people were more honest. I know when it's me and people ask me, I go above and beyond to share. I think it's important people to know what the rates are, even if it's not somebody in the same sort of job that you want to do, but just to kind of know roughly, okay, we're similar sort of age, similar sort of experience, to kind of know generally what the rates are is really, really important, because most people out there are getting severely underpaid, especially in the creative fields. It's fucking horrendous how much people are getting fucking shafted by certain people. So you have to be aware of that, negotiate your rates accordingly. Obviously there are platforms and things you can use, tools like Glassdoor is a good one. Glassdoor is a website you can check out where some companies, where people basically leave reviews of companies they worked at. Sometimes they include salaries and stuff, or you can just, Google it and basically get a rough idea on what the salaries are in certain places or certain jobs based on the city that that you're based in. But I think it's just important in general just to ask certain questions. And maybe I've even heard some people, this is kind of a bit OTT. I don't use LinkedIn, but I've heard some people that do use LinkedIn will sometimes message people that worked similar jobs than them and just search for them and just search be a occupation, I'm assuming, and then message a random person say, hey, I know it's a random question, but could you help me out? I'm trying to negotiate a contract with my new company. What do you make? Do you know what I mean? And just be upfront, and then see if that person will tell them roughly what they make, and then they can use that as a sort of like, you know, bouncing off point to know what to negotiate for. Because nowadays, if you don't do that and you don't fucking fight for yourself, these companies will take the piss out of you. So hopefully if you're out there, you do that. Hopefully if you're out there, you do that. Hopefully if you're out there, you do that. Moving on. I wanted to quickly talk about this because I feel like this was absolutely one of the most hilarious things I've seen in a long time. So this is courtesy of the one and only Milagro Graham, so big up Milagro, and it features Ari Lennox, somebody that I've been a big fan of, right, for the longest time when it comes to R&B music, right, sensual, emotional, just beautiful R&B music. But it's also not a secret to say that Ari Lennox isn't very good at social media. She's not very good at the internet. And she seems to be somebody that suffers a lot from trolling, suffers a lot in general from just not being able to handle that side of being a artist nowadays, right? It's an unfortunate part. It's a necessary evil, basically. If you're an artist coming up, you just have to use social media. There's no way you can kind of get around it. But I feel like Ari Lennox just isn't made for it. And this is another good example of it. This is courtesy of Mob Radio. And it says here, Ari Lennox reacts to a lookalike after fans confuse woman for R&B singer. And it says, I don't think we really look alike. So Ari Lennox went completely haywire and angry and crazy because people were suggesting that this woman here on the right looks a bit like her, right? So this woman here, as you zoom in, she definitely looks like Ari Lennox, and she didn't like the comparisons, and she just went on this crazy rant on her social media feed, basically saying, oh, we don't look alike at all, you guys are gaslighting, whatever nonsense it was on here. Just kind of read it because it's really sad, but it also goes to show for me why it's probably safe to say that some artists probably shouldn't use social media. Even though it's a necessary evil, it's not for everybody. And that's completely okay. It's okay just to focus on your art and put it out there, but not everybody should subject themselves to this level of torment if this is what it's going to do to you. So this is Ari Lennox's caption after people compared this other woman to her. She says, you welcome weak ass Jasmine Brand to some promo. I don't know when so many weak-ass, low-IQ people decided to start hating me for stating my own opinion on things. I had an amazing live yesterday that was filled with some of the most positivity and including posting this beautiful woman on my profile. She actually encouraged me to put some makeup on and look pretty and feel good about myself because she looked so damn good. You took a snippet, like of all you weak-ass blogs do, Shade Room, Neighborhood Talk, Live Bites, whatever, leave me to your low-IQ self-hating wolves of a fan base to obliterate me. You guys will never fucking understand what I've been through. I may complain about so much shit that you and your low-IQ minds perceive my minuscule perceive as minuscule, but you have no idea what I deal with in private every time you continue to shut me down for saying anything publicly. You all literally can't wait to hate me. I thought I was doing a positive thing. I thought it would be cool to show this beautiful woman some love, and that was even met with hate. When did y'all decide y'all hate me so bad? Was it for knowing my damn worth? Y'all hate me for stating my opinion? The truth is, I think she's prettier than me. So this is where it comes from. It's all fucking insecurity, I guess, for Ari Lennox. The truth is, I think she is prettier than me. Maybe that's why I don't want to think we look alike, and that's just how I feel. All of you can literally choke on arse tonight. Complaining about me complaining is complete Twilight Zone hell. Social media, you're a freaking lie. You bitches gossip and complain all day on your non-existent platforms and your podcasts and your social media pages, shutting me down for literally existing as a black woman with bravery and feelings. It's not my problem y'all want black women singers to walk around like robots and not express how they feel. Their feelings. It's cool though. When I'm drunk on IG live making you laugh though, right? Choke on arse tonight, all of you, for the rest of your lives. So again, loads of, you know, what you call it, contradictions on what she's saying, but in general, it's probably just an insecurity thing. But in general, not even trying to dissect it, because I love Ari Lennox and I fucking love her music and I want her to win. I just think in general, she just shouldn't be on social media. She should have a team maybe handling it for her, but she's just not cut for it, because I think social media by default is a place where you can go and complain and moan and bitch and cry, but people can also in reply call you out for your moaning, bitching and complaining, and that's okay. You're just meant to ignore it and continue on. You're not meant to cry about them complaining. You're not meant to get upset about people complaining about your complaining. It's meant to be a free-for-all. You have an ability to say what you want, complain about somebody, cutting in the line in front of you in the Walmart, complain about your Amazon delivery not getting there on time, complain about your airplane your flight being delayed. You can complain about what you want. But people are also allowed to kind of throw it back at you and, mock you for being ridiculous or just poke fun at you just for the sake of poking fun at you. Sometimes it's mean-spirited. Sometimes it can be a bit too much, but that's just the way of the internet. And if you don't understand that, if you're not okay with that, you probably shouldn't be on the internet. And that's okay. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing that some people aren't cut out for the mean back and forth, the shit slinging context or the mud slinging contest that fucking permeates most of social media, especially some of these hip hop blog pages and shit. It's the nature of the game, right? They pick apart some of your mistakes and they just keep going back. Pick up KC.
Pro tip, do the bare minimum at the start and gradually ramp up work efficiency. Swap companies every 3 years to avoid burnout, which also makes wage negotiations easier once your resume is padded.
That's a very good tip. Very, very good tip. Very, very, very good tip there. Big up Casey for the tip there regarding the promotion of companies and stuff. That's a very good tip. I think that's something that I don't do. The last bit you mentioned, I probably bounce around jobs too much. That's one thing I think my CV lacks, is stability. A lot of jobs I've not had them more than 2 years. So it looks like I'm all over the place when really I'm trying to look for other roles that kind of fit my fit what I want to do a little bit better, or trying to bounce to kind of get more salary bumps. But when you look at it coldly, black and white, it kind of looks like I'm inconsistent. It looks like I'm unreliable because I'm leaving under the 2-year mark. Well, I think the 3-year mark is a good little time to kind of bounce around. So really good advice there from Casey. Big up you. Thank you for the donation. But yeah, going back to this Ari Lennox thing, it's just really unfortunate, because she's at this stage in her career now where she probably needs social media more than ever, because she's independent, because she's somewhat, I guess in her own island. She makes R&B music, which probably isn't the most popular in terms of quote unquote the urban genres out there. So she's having to kind of use it more to kind of amplify and to signal boost herself and to kind of keep herself in a conversation. But unfortunately, some days are good, some days are bad when it comes to social media. She had a pretty bad day the other day, and now people are looking at you like you're ridiculous because you felt insecure because the person that was, it's just it's whatever. I think the long and short of it is that she shouldn't be on social media, and I wish we were in a place in culture or in artistic expression, whatever it may be, where some artists would be knowledgeable of that and be okay with okay, let me use my social media platform as a place to kind of post all my new videos and tunes and shit, and let my fans know what I'm working on and my shows. But it's not a place where I share my personality or I communicate back and forth with people, because I'm just not built for it. I think that's okay. There's plenty of artists like that. I think Adele's a good example of it, right? Adele's not somebody that deals well with social media. She doesn't use it as much, so I think that's perfectly fine. So I think Ari Lennox just needs to find a way to kind of do that, because so far, from what I've seen, she doesn't seem to do social media well, she's on the opposite side of if Krayshawn and those type of people can harness social media for the betterment, for their own betterment, even though it's super toxic, Ari Lennox is on it's the complete opposite. It seems to really kind of throw her off her course and kind of fuck with her head in real time, or in real life, which is obviously something that you don't want. You don't want fucking social media to actively impact you in your real life. So hopefully she figures something out and changes course, because we don't want to see that going forward. We really don't. Next, please. Next. We have to watch this. So, you guys know that I'm a big fan of Tremaine Emory, the founder of Denim Tears. Love that guy, and that whole fucking period with Supreme was one of the most entertaining and fun things to witness from afar. When he got into a tit tat with Supreme and basically declared that they were white supremacist company because they wouldn't allow him to put some depiction of somebody a slave getting whipped or something on a t-shirt, and that they weren't empowering black voices, and that the C-suite were full of white white people, even though the whole company is like a amalgamation of fucking races, from the store to the vision, for the visions, to the visuals that they put out there. The C-suite wasn't reflective of that, and he basically accused, you know, James Jebbia of basically being Hitler, right? Pretty crazy accusations to throw out there, which is even funnier because people, number one, weren't happy when he got the job, right? So thinking, oh, he didn't deserve to get the job. He was underqualified. What does he know about Supreme? He gets a job, which is a really surprising hire. It's a really kind of clever hire, a smart one for Supreme's sake, because they're hiring somebody that's a bit, underground, but it's a bit under the radar. They're giving a chance to somebody that's just getting started, who's kind of making a name for themselves. Maybe he can, you know, have a different kind of point of view, a different sort of vision that he can kind of sprinkle across Supreme and shit. And obviously with the connection he has to New York and people associated with the brand, it kind of made sense, but it didn't work out. Cool. He's now gone full steam ahead with Denim Tears. It's more successful than ever. He's selling more cotton reef, you know, bits of clothing that he can probably, you know, get his head around, making millions and millions of dollars off the back of it. And now there's this even more of a sicker collaboration that he's got, where he's linking up with Marc Jacobs. Marc Jacobs is doing some sort of special collaboration project, where they're linking up with a lot of like people associated with the brand, loads of family and friends, and he's now a part of this collaboration that's going to be, you know, propping up. I think it's the 20th anniversary. I think to celebrate 20th anniversary, I think, of Marc Jacobs. So he's a part of the whole thing. But there's a video I want to share with you that's fucking incredibly funny. So this is a caption that he posts on his Instagram, and a picture of him in front of the billboard. Sorry, the advertising poster here that features a lot of the collaborators involved in Marc Jacobs' project, including Marc Jacobs himself here at the end, and I think Futura and a few other people, and what you call it, I forgot the artist's name here on the side there, but let's read the caption itself, because I think the caption's funny, and then we're going to see the video that I think is even funnier. The caption from Denim Tears, or Tremaine Emory, sorry, it says as follows: I started working at Marc Jacobs in the stockroom in 2006 at the Marc by Marc store on Bleecker Street. Worked for the company for 9 years, ending my tenure as manager at the London Collection store in Mayfair. The funny thing about Tremaine, I'll keep calling Denim Tears. The funny thing about Tremaine is that if you've read enough of his interviews, if you're familiar with him, you'll know that he repeats this Marc Jacobs story ad nauseum. There was a period in my life where I felt like I kept mentioning 1948 too much. I don't even think I mentioned the fact that I worked in a Nike store in 1948 for like, you know, nearly 10 years or however long it was. I don't even mention as much as he does. But he repeats this story so much. But I think that is also a good thing. You have to kind of have a little bit of a narrative, a story, a theme about your fucking journey. You need to repeat a certain thing. Hey, I was fucking an intern for this person. My first placement was here. I grew up with that person. Like you need a little story, a little narrative, right? You need something to kind of, you know, tell your fucking fiction, to put it out there. And I think this is part of the Marc Jacobs story. I was in the stockroom, then I went up, didn't mention that was my way in fashion. It's a story that he repeats ad nauseum. But regardless, let's continue. That's how I started in fashion. In the stockroom, I just like Marc did at whatever that thing is. Many years before me, I never felt entitled to anything. I just figured if I worked hard and treated people good, kept learning, stayed alive, and was lucky enough, something could happen. I'm very grateful to be one of the 13 collaborators for Marc Jacobs. Oh, it's a 40th anniversary. Fucking hell. 40th year long celebration for one of the greatest designers and coolest cultural figures of our time. Jesus, Marc Jacobs has been around for 40 years. Fucking incredible. So big up to Marc Jacobs in that regard, right? An incredible story. I think it's very inspiring too, especially people who are in the fashion industry. I think it's a rare one because I think most people, myself included, who have worked in fashion, who have worked in streetwear, who have worked with clothes, and who've worked retail, it doesn't end like this. You don't go from working retail, suddenly being the cool guy, to then having your own brand and all that sort of shit. It doesn't usually end that way. It just ends with you just never getting a job and just having to figure something else out. It's not, you know what I mean? Like that whole fucking retail, it's an illusion. It's a fucking fantasy. It's a dream that they kind of trick people, especially young kids coming from uni. Oh, work at the Saint Laurent store, work at the Balenciaga store, you might, and nah, nothing happens. If anything, it's more important what you do outside of your job. Maybe you can leverage the job to kind of help the stuff you're doing, but you have to do your own projects, have your own magazine, start your own modeling agency, have your own brand, but you can't rely on working somewhere to get you the look, like especially retail, because it's so disconnected to the brand itself. Like there's nothing connecting Luwebe the store to Luwebe the fucking design studio. You know what I mean? You're nowhere near to being, you know, Jonathan Anderson's design fucking assistant because you work part-time at Luwebe. It's not going to happen. You have to actively do things to get closer to Jonathan Anderson and to make it known that you're, want that job, but just working and stocking shelves in Luebe store isn't going to actually help you get that job. So the whole retail fantasy thing is a fantasy. But obviously he's one of the people that kind of was able to kind of break through and do his thing. Cool. No problem with that one. The funny thing that I liked about this was there's this video that he posts on his Instagram that is probably one of the most cringiest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, muy cringy, right? I don't think I've ever seen in my entire life something more cringy than what I'm about to show you right now. It's something that really did make me laugh. Let me just get up for you right now if I can see it. Because I think to myself, like, why? What are you doing? Do you think you look cool doing this? And obviously somebody in the background was thinking the same thing that I thought, because they said in the background, some woman, I think, is like, that's so gay. You can hear them. So here's a video. This is the video from, I think, his social media feed, right? And it features Tremaine spray painting the billboard that features him on there and putting the cactus plant flea market smiley face with the 3 eyes on it, on the thing, because I think Cactus Plant is also part of this collaboration. She might be this this Asian woman there, because I think Cactus Plant Flea Market is an Asian lady, right? So it might be that lady there next to him, who knows? But he spray painted the face on. Listen to the person in the background walking by. Listen to the person walking by, what they say. You hear the person? That's so gay. One more time. And they're completely right.
That's so gay.
That's so gay. Exactly. It really is gay. But I think that's part of being successful in this field. You have to kind of be a little bit gay. You have to be a little bit corny. You have to be a little bit lame. You have to be a little bit self-absorbed. You have to be a little bit maniacal. You have to be a little bit narcissistic. You have to be a little bit sociopathic. You have to be a little bit of those things to really advance anywhere, to really believe that you're the shit. Like, because this guy's walking around like he's fucking Basquiat doing this shit. He really does think he's doing something by spraying this little fucking smiley face on this fucking Marc Jacobs poster out here in the New York streets. He really does think he's fucking JA up here. Man thinks he's fucking 10 foot. Do you know what I mean? He really thinks he's fucking all city, like spraying this fucking dumb smiley face on here. It's really fucking hilarious. Like, he really does think he's doing something. And it's even lamer. I think it'd be one thing if he just did it himself. The fact that he hired a guy with a camera to pan around and film him as he's fucking doing this cringy smiley face thing is even worse, right? What's that footage for? A documentary? Is that going to be on his Instagram somewhere too? Like, where's that footage going? This cringy fucking SLR picture thing where he's panning. It's like, come on, man. Come on, bro. Get a life. Get a life. But hey, congratulations to Denim Tears regardless, or to Tremaine, sorry, and Denim Tears, I'm assuming. So let's see what that collaboration happens and what happens with that going forward. Big up Marc Jacobs also. 40 years in the industry is fucking no joke. I always loved Marc Jacobs when I was growing up. Always a brand that I kind of looked at and looked at for in the past, Marc by Marc especially. I remember when I was first kind of having thoughts of having my own brand, I was always inspired by the idea of Marc by Marc Jacobs, just the name alone. I always kind of had this fanciful idea that I'd have like an Agostinho fucking brand. And the idea of it would be to kind of reverse how people launch brands. Instead of launching it based on ready to wear, it'll be just accessories and then it'll go into ready to wear. So you'd start off by making like hats, belts, bags, whatever else it may be. And then you'd go into making like ready to wear stuff, which is, kind of the inverse of what people usually do. But in general, Marc by Marc now is having a bit of a resurgence, a bit of a kind of reawakening. I saw the campaign with Louis Vert and I think FK Twigs and shit. That was pretty cool. So clearly it's coming back into the zeitgeist and shit. So I'm eager to see what they do going forward with his collaborations and who they collaborate with going forward. But yeah, absolutely hilarious situation. Tremaine out here literally thinking he's fucking Banksy, thinking he's Jean-Michel Basquiat and shit, thinking he's doing something special with this stuff. But the collaboration should be interesting, though. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people collaborating here. There's a full post, I think, courtesy of Marc Jacobs' Instagram account. You've got here Sofia Coppola, the director. You got Pharrell. You've got Cactus Plant. You got Murakami. You got Futura. You've got Alistair McKinn. Oh, is that Alistair McKinn, the stylist? Is that what he looks like? Is it? I didn't know that. I literally have never seen a picture of Alistair McKinn in my entire life. I didn't know that's what he looks like. Fair play. Yeah, Alistair McKinn, the legendary stylist, that's where he is. That's a fucking serious outfit, innit? The bomber jacket under the hoodie with the cargos and the, what you call it? And the Marc Jacobs platforms, right? Which he's fucking famous for. Really cool. And you got Futura there. You got Tremaine from Denim Tears there. And who else you got here? You got Anna Sue. Okay, that's Anna Sue. Sorry, that's not Cactus Plant. You got Anna Sue, and then you've got the duo from Vaquero as well there as well. So interesting brand of people he's collaborating with. Mostly looks like it's a friends thing. I'm assuming because a lot of these people have he's probably got too many friends with brands, Marc Jacobs, in it. So maybe a lot of them can't work with him because of the contractual obligations, right? But there's a lot of people here that aren't featured on the actual picture. There's a Pat McGrath on the tag. We've got Nigo also is going to be collaborating on here. We've got, I don't know who this is, 1-800 New Bold. I don't know who that is, but they're collaborating with them. We've also got Heaven. There's going to be Heaven collaboration, which makes sense. And then what else have we got here? That's it, right? Yeah. What is the 100? I don't know what that 1-800 New Bold is. What is that? It sounds familiar. What is 100-800 New Bold? I have no idea. It's called someone called Nick Newbold. I don't know who Nick Newbold is, but they're also collaborating with Marc Jacobs going forward. But yeah, big up Tremaine, big up Denim Tears. Can't wait to see what they put out. Moving on from that, I went to actually double check Supreme. What's happening to Supreme and what is actually sold out from their first drop, because I think I was kind of skirted over that release of the Spring Summer 2024 collection. Maybe one of my favorites to date. Really cool stuff there. Talking about Cactus Plant, this varsity jacket was designed by Cactus Plant and it's completely sold out, which is good to see. One of the better ones to come out in a while. I'm not really a big fan of the big, crazy logos on the front of Supreme, varsity jackets and stuff, but I think the fucking varsity like this is done really fucking well. Wool blend with a cowhide leather sleeves feel and quilted satin lining snap front closures. It comes in the red. It also comes in this nice mustard colorway and the black. I'd probably get the red just for the sake of it, and it's all sold out. 518 as well, so that goes to show you that was definitely a very popular piece that everybody thought was popular. I also like the fact that the fur jacket sold out. This is one of my favorites too. I love this fucking fur jacket. This faux fur jacket is really fucking cool, and good to see that it's sold. Good to see I'm not the only guy that had the same vision. Faux fur, it comes in the brown and the black. That looks really cool. Completely sold out in all colorways. Oh, look, it's got a nice little Supreme lining as well. Ooh, I love that. It's got this nice Supreme embroidery on the inside too. That's fucking beautiful. And a nice chain, hang tag here, so you can obviously not rip. 348 as well, not too bad on the pricing. The only thing I'm a bit disappointed in is the price of this fishtail parka. I really want to get this to replace the Justice for All one that I lost a few years ago. But this Futura fishtail parka is £458. That's way too much for a spring jacket, man. Spring parka. I know luckily it's got a lining in it. It's got a little lining on the inside, right there, as you can see. It's got a little lining in there. So it's kind of substantial. There's like a 2-for-1 jacket thing going on there. But it's still a lot of money for a fucking parka for spring. Like, it's a lot of fucking pee. So not surprised to see this is sitting there. The black and the snow camo, I'd probably get the olive. That's a classic colorway. And obviously the text at the back. I'll definitely take the hood off straight away. No hood on that one. We don't need hoods on our fucking fishtails. But that's a pretty nice jacket, and I really do like that. Not surprised. What other thing is sold out here? These anoraks are always sold out. These half zips, kids love these. Same with some of these shiny bits. The shirts always sit for a while. Not surprised. The long sleeve football jerseys always sell out as well. These have become such a cool thing to wear nowadays, the kids. That kind of style with the baggy jeans and the Timberlands and the football jerseys. So I'm not surprised to see this Supreme 1999 jersey sold out. This football-esque jersey is beautiful. This soccer jersey. I love that design where it's almost like bleached or faded out in between, and you got this blur effect with the Supreme MCM X CVI on the bottom there. That's fucking nice. Actually, the color in red is probably my favorite. That's a really nice colorway with the pink. I'm a big fan of that. We can scroll down here, continue on to see what else is sold out. Oddly enough, are some of these long sleeves? No, long sleeves are all there. The t-shirts are all there. Is that vest gone? Wow, yeah, the vest is gone. So that vest is gone. That kind of a jacketed vest thing is kind of gone in both colorways. The leopard or the zebra print top is still there. The hoodies with the football numbers are all gone, right? The 34, they're all gone. The regular plain hoodies with the Supreme on the hoodies, these are gone. The t-shirts are all still there. This long sleeve. Oh, who actually did this long sleeve design? This is really cool. I'd wear the fuck out of this in pink. San Sebastian long sleeve shirt. Is that available in my size? Here it is. I probably might get this one. This is really nice. All cotton classic Supreme long sleeve t-shirt with a printed graphic on the front. The artwork is by an artist called Miho Kurinagi. Oh, really nice. I do like the design of this and the graphics on the front. That is gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie. I'll definitely wear the fuck out of that, especially in purple or in this pink colorway on my fucking dark black skin. Oh, that look fucking fire. I might have to fucking get that actually. I'll keep an eye on those long sleeves and definitely get that on payday. I'm not gonna lie. If it's still there, let's scroll down. What else do we have still available? What is sold out here? T-shirts are all there. The pants are still gonna be there because people always sleep on the pants. I might actually get these white cargos. I'm not gonna lie, I do really like these white cargos. I know they're a bit crazy for most of you that are watching or listening, but there's a pair of white cargo pants. They come in camo, there's black, there's olive, right? There's some regular colorways here, obviously in the cargos. You can see there's a red tiger camo, but I really want this pair in white. I know it's a bit nuts. I know it doesn't make any sense to buy white cargo pants, but where else can you buy nice cargo pants in white like this, you know? Like, and it's got a drawstring at the end, the hem as well. You can snap it on. Like, I might have to buy these and fucking swag these out in an all, because I'm into wearing all white these days as a little feature, especially when I go out. You know what I mean? Just to kind of jazz shit up a bit. You feel me? Just to kind of remind people what time it is. You feel me? I think I might have to jump on the all white flex. So I do like those white cargo pants. Let's continue on and look at some last bits here. We got the cargo pants that we like. I like the hats. Hats are all really nice. I can't wear any camp cats, but some of these ones with the ball is cool. This beanie is fucking banging. I'm not surprised it's sold out. It kind of reminds me of that other one that released last season with the fraying bits of material. The backpack is beautiful. I'm not sure some of you guys don't like Supreme backpacks, but I think this might be one of the better ones they've done in a while. It's covered in a grid pattern that's all 3M. So, you know, when it obviously light shines on it, it's all gonna fucking glow. I kind of like it in the orange. I'm not gonna lie. I think the orange backpack might be my favorite. That orange backpack might be my favorite in the colorways, or that or the camo. And then of course you got it in a smaller bag. It's the same design. This bag, I think the bag here, this shoulder bag might be the best one for like a DJ bag to fit all my headphones and USBs and shit. That might be the one to go forward with it. And then we've also got some scissors here. We got the mechanic gloves, which I love. Oh, is that a bandana? The bandana sold out. Shit. Okay, fair play. And then obviously the Air Force Ones in black are always sold out as well. So quite a decent first drop, to be fair. Quite a decent first drop. Lovely stuff there. Lovely stuff there from the one and only Supremo. The one and only Supremo. Moving on from that, I also quickly wanted to check this. So this is courtesy of Hypebeast regarding the Salehe Bembury Crocs. He's got a new pair of Crocs, a new design. The Crocs is called the Saru Mule. I'm going to say this out loud. As much as I like Salehe Bembury, and I think personally for me, I feel like his best work is mostly the stuff that he does in collaboration. I think when he designs stuff from the ground up, it's a little bit sketchy. But I feel like even the Croc stuff that he's been knocking out of the park with, I feel like it's starting to get a little bit bored. I'm starting to get a little bit bored of it. I think he needs to kind of spruce up the design, or the approach, or the aesthetic, or the themes, whatever it is, that kind of lends itself to designing the way that he does with Crocs, and kind of freshen up a little bit, because I'm kind of getting bored. I'm not going to lie. As much as these aren't that offensive, I'm kind of getting bored of the aesthetic. Maybe I'm bored of Crocs overall because I'm wearing them all the time. Maybe because the collaborations have been oversaturated and they're killing them. But I feel like this is kind of a little bit boring. I'm over it. Maybe while you see it in different colorways. But effectively, it's a regular Croc that you would imagine, a mule Teps Croc. Essentially, there's no strap on the back, so you can't put these in sport mode. But they look like they have a bit more of a thicker sole. A thicker outsole, midsole type of vibe. He's got his signature thumb print not sure if it's a fun print or it's a topology thing. I forgot what the term is for it in terms of the ground and shit, the tectonic plates, whatever it may be. But regardless, you know that swirly pattern he usually has on the sole. He kind of has those all over there, so it kind of wraps around the outside as well, and they're all kind of monotone, all one color, no real other bells and whistles. So pretty, easy to wear, I would assume. But I'm kind of just tired of the aesthetic. I think when it comes to Salehe Bembury, I kind of want him to kind of spruce things up a little bit and kind of reawaken things. I'm a bit bored of what I see from the stuff that he puts out. But again, maybe I'm being a little bit too picky and I should kind of relax and just let him do his thing. I'm not really too sure, but I feel like the Salehe Bembury Crocs experiment has probably run its course. But let's read the article. Salehe Bembury has revealed his latest creation with Crocs, a new mill silhouette dubbed the Saru. The fourth completely original silhouette that Bembury has designed for Crocs. Is it that original though? It's just a regular Croc that's just been, there's no strap. No, it's not that crazy. Let's relax. The fourth originally silhouette that Bembury has designed for Crocs after the 2021 Pollux clog, one of the most singular styles of the decade thus far. Yeah, the Pollux one is really nice, to be fair. I got to give him that. That Pollux clog has been doing bits. 2023 Pollux slide and the forthcoming Pollux Juniper sneaker. The Saru takes the designer's signature fingerprint design and moves it into the midsole and outsole, leaving a top largely unchanged from the Crocs classic clog. Exactly. So he's taken he's just taken the sole that he usually does and put it on a regular Croc without the strap. Two different colors of the design have been revealed so far. The first, which is a burnt orange, is pictured above. Yesterday, Bembury posted a faraway look at the detailed shot of a tan colorway on his Instagram stories. The first of these images, both of which have been seen below, was accompanied by campaign day. So we've got more images here as well of a new colorway. So we got it in tan. Yeah, just look like regular Crocs to me. I get it, they look decent enough, but I'm also, maybe it's just me, I'm at a point now, I think after reading the review of the recent Rick Owens show where he basically said he's now designing to be like what's that thing called, when you go to an airport, I forgot what it's called, anti-TSA or anti just airport wear, right? Because nowadays when you go and catch a flight, most people that go to the airport are always wearing leggings or slouchy sweatpants or whatever it may be, or tracksuits. No one's really doing what we do in the past where you kind of do get dressed up. Sometimes if you're going on a weekend trip, you might actually wear your party outfit at the airport so that when you land, you dump your stuff and you just could go straight out. People nowadays just wearing their pajamas at the airport to be comfortable. So I'm at a point now where I'm trying to go back to that. Actually, I'm taking Rick Owens's, lead and getting dressed up when I go to the airport. Like I would wear something that I'd actually go out clubbing in, like big boots, nice pair of jeans, a cool jacket, a t-shirt and shit. Even though it's going to be way more hassle to take my fucking massive New Rock Spice boots off every time I go through the fucking, metal detectors and shit, I'd much prefer to kind of actually feel like I'm dressed up and I've, taken some time to put myself together as opposed to just wearing pajamas so I can just be comfortable on the plane, because who gives a fuck? I mean, it's just a plane ride. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't always need to be comfortable, and sometimes looking sharp and kind of, and doing away with that comfortable sleepwear, pajama wear thing is definitely the way to go. So maybe that's why I'm now at a point where I'm kind of getting off of Crocs. Even though I wear Crocs myself day to day, just as something to kind of, wear around the house, I'm not somebody that believes in wearing these things, socially, outdoors, in real life and shit. I feel like if you have enough time to put on an outfit, to have a shower, to wash your pussy, to wash behind your fucking balls, to wash behind your knees and your ears and put on a fresh outfit, you should have enough time to put on some shoes. I hate people who do all that stuff, put on an outfit and then put on sandals. Like fucking Brian Callen. Like, come on, man. Like, if you have enough effort to put on a pair of skinny jeans or a pair of fucking jeans in general, you should have enough decency to put on some nice shoes. You know what I mean? And not put on ankle socks. You know what I mean? Like, actually wear some regular socks as well. Those are what should go about it. So maybe my aversion to Salehe Bembury's new model of clog, whatever it's fucking called, or mule, is that I just want to get back to the world where people are getting, are dressing up more, are taking more care of what they look like when they step out. So I think for me, I wouldn't want to wear Crocs when I go to the airport. I'm going to want to wear my big fucking double-decker Dr. Martens, my Jaden boots, my fucking Rick Owen Geo baskets, my Rick Owen Ramones, you know what I mean? Like my Rick Owen Kiss boots, I eventually get them, my big Balenciaga shoes. I would go out there and just cause a nuisance for the people at the airport and really make their job difficult by wearing something aggressively, unconducive to the place that I'm at. I think that's where I'm on. It's yet to be revealed that Salehe Bembury Crocs Saru will be released alongside the Crocs Juniper. The efforts with Crocs are just some of the forthcoming projects from potentially active designer, as he's recently been hinting at a partnership with Louis Vuitton. Okay, cool. So he's gonna what? So there's gonna be a Salehe Bembury Crocs and Louis Vuitton thing coming up soon. Fucking hell, really? Do we need that? Do we need £600 Crocs? I don't know if we do. But anyway, regardless, big up Salehe Bembury. It's good to see another black man out there doing bits out there in footwear. I'm just to get bored of the silhouette and the aesthetic. I want a return to fucking dressing up and shit. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. Moving on. We need to, and we must just quickly go over what's happening with E1. So as most of you guys know, E1 has been involved in a little bit of turmoil recently because their founder, one of their co-founders of E1, a guy called Yuval Hen, had been exposed as an active member of the IDF, right? Active as in, like, just the other day, he personally flew to fucking Palestine. He flew to fucking Gaza and allegedly picked up arms and went and slain a bunch of people out there. Allegedly, right? So, force and feelings to everybody out there that's going through what they're going through. Solidarity and love and light and support to all my Palestinian brothers and sisters, and free Palestine to the fucking end. But allegedly, Yuval Hen was out there on the front line fighting for the IDF, which is fucking crazy when you think about what place E1 plays within the clubbing scene and landscape in London, and the fact that they've got all these progressive, parties that are very forthright and vocal about the support of Palestine, all this sort of shit. To have one of the founders be actively out there, murdering people, quote unquote, allegedly, I don't know nothing, don't sue me, is fucking crazy, right? So let's kind of go over the article courtesy of RA, where they kind of round up everything that happened. So RA as follows: Yuval Hen, co-founder of London club E1, has resigned as director following the allegation that he recently served in the Israeli Defense Force in Gaza. According to Companies House, the Israeli club owner and former photographer left his post at E1 Records Limited and Studio Space Limited and Upspace Limited earlier today. February 16th, Hen's business partner Oran Arush remains in charge across all three companies. So because of the backlash that was happening online, and because everybody was essentially, cancelling E1, DJs were dropping off and saying that they weren't going to perform there. People were putting pressure on Club Verboten, the legendary kink party, to cancel, but they didn't cancel. They followed through and did the event, which I agree with because it was so last minute. But loads of DJs dropped out and didn't want to perform there anymore. And I'm assuming going forward, they're probably going to struggle to keep a lot of their more progressive, parties that are basically very forthright in the support of the Palestinian people out there, to keep them on board, and generally the community might probably turn their back on them. So they're kind of suffering for all that sort of shit. And obviously the guy got nervous and he withdrew. But unfortunately for him, the evidence that's out there suggests that, he's still probably he's still probably receiving some type of money from the club that's probably going to go back to funding that war over there in Palestine, and obviously desecrating and dismantling and destroying people's lives over there. And in general, if I'm not mistaken, this resignation has only come about the other day, even though the statement that they put out is suggesting that the Yuval Hen guy left in October or something, which obviously isn't the case because he just resigned from his post just the other day. It continues and says the resignation follows allegations that surfaced yesterday on Instagram via a joint post by Ravers for Palestine and Writers Against the War in Gaza. It features a screenshot of a now deleted Facebook post from someone who appears to know Hen. The tech references Hen fighting somewhere in Gaza and is accompanied by a photo of him seemingly in IDF uniform. And if you want to just have a double check about that, we'll go to the Ravers of Palestine actual page, which is over here, and you actually see the screenshot, which is wild to think, right? Wild to think that, as there are events happening in E1 that are maybe with the proceeds going to helping people in Palestine. Maybe there's DJs wearing certain regalia and items of clothing in support of the people over there. The actual founder of the club itself is literally on the front lines, with a fucking gat in his hand, going there and actually supposedly, maybe not, hopefully not, killing people. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the fucking contrast that has happening with this club culture stuff we're going through? It's fucking nuts. The thing that I'm most surprised by, and I'd love somebody to tell me who has more information about this, I'm surprised that the amount of Israeli people who are involved in the electronic dance community or industry or scene. Maybe something that I wasn't aware of, but I'm surprised that there are so many Israeli people. Like Israelis are like a big part of electronic music scene in general across the board. Because you think about the issues that was going on with whore, you think about Boiler, all these, like, it's really interesting to see that there's so many Israeli people that are plugged into dance music across Europe. Like, it's really, really interesting. And I wonder why that's the case. It continues. Specifically, why that country, those people, I wonder, maybe because they obviously have a very popular dance music electronic scene there. There's a big gay scene there also. Maybe that's part of the reason why. But it's interesting that there's a lot of Israeli people are very, they're very much a part of club culture and industry and shit. They're probably, I'd imagine, if they own all the clubs, there's probably a large majority of them that also own a lot of the record agents, a lot of the booking agencies and shit. So yeah, interesting. It continues. In a statement shared with resident advisor, E1 said no connection to political movements and confirmed that its previous owner has stepped away in October due to being deeply affected by the ongoing crisis across Israel and Palestine. That's hilarious, right? How are you going to be affected by the war and what's going on there in Israel and Palestine, but then you're dressed up in uniform of the IDF? Like, so you're concerned about the safety of both people, but then you've got a gun and you're dressed up in regal of the IDF. So what's happening there? Please let me know. How does that make sense? The club added will continue to provide a safe space for people to enjoy club culture in East London. This is insulting, isn't it? How can you the term or the phrase safe space is definitely overused. It's definitely a ruse. It's definitely a virtue signaling tool that actual abusers use to cover their tracks. You think of fucking Crossbreed, RIP that party, right? The promoter or the person behind it was all high and mighty, acting as if like they got some safe space and they were better than everybody else. And I had a bit of an occurrence with the main guy who used to run Crossbreed when I went to Berghain, and there was some girl that was, looking like she was going through something, and I was trying to help her out with some other girl, and I put my hand on her shoulder to whatever to kind of go over to her, like just instinctively, not even thinking about it, and he was like, don't touch her, like he trying to make it look like I was being a creep or something, right? He tried to make me basically embarrass me in front of everybody. I was like, bruv, like what the fuck are you doing? Do you know what I mean? Like caught me off guard. And then later on, he gets exposed of being a fucking super turbo creep and running this kink sex positive party thing, but also using it as cover to allegedly, do some fucking shady shit behind the scenes to the point where that whole party had to kind of implode and, fold into itself and shit. And it's completely gone and it's not around anymore. So people love to overuse this term safe space to cover their tracks. So it's even more disgusting to see these people, E1, using the term safe space when the fucking co-founder of the club is a fucking IDF soldier. Like, how dare you? You know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ. In response to the situation, popular sex positive party Club of Burton cut ties with E1 earlier today with a statement. It won't return to the club in March, though the tonight's events featuring Grace Dow will go ahead. Unfortunately, Grace Dow also dropped out, so I don't know who played. Maybe they had to just have their friends and family playing. The funny thing is, everybody was publicly dropping off from playing Club of Burton, but I bet you they got loads of DMs from people also saying, hey, I'll pay for free. You know what I mean? That's the nature of the game, man. There's so many DJs, but such a lack of opportunities that if you are taking yourself out of playing certain gigs based on your political leanings or how you feel about certain people or certain scenes or whatever it may be, there's going to be a queue of people willing to take your position down the line. So, it is what it is. It continues. So that's basically what happened there. So that was obviously a shocking, a feature or something that happened recently. And then the other thing I thought was really funny was this post courtesy of Ravers for Palestine and also Nini H, who I'm a big fan of, right? I love Nini H. I've spoken about her plenty of times here on my flipping little podcast. But I thought this was incredibly cringe. incredibly cringe, and you need to give your head a wobble and fucking chill out a little bit. So Nene H posted on her story, remember what I did in that club, right? She obviously is starting to like jack herself off a bit, and she posts this screenshot of a video that features herself playing in E1, where she manages to play, and she's got a scarf, a keffiyeh, and she basically waves it around her head, and she's, I guess, is trying to say that, oh, look at how brave I was when I was playing in E1 and I waved this scarf above my head. I'm like, come on, Nene H, come on, babe. Like, I like you seem like a chill person, but I mean, you're not a head to me. Do you know what I mean? You're not some fucking freedom fighter out here because you decided to wave a flag above your head. It's not that serious. You know what I mean? You didn't do that much. And I think people out there are really conflating the fact that they're sharing posts, they're sharing hashtags and stuff as if they're like doing something. It's like, I get it, you're supporting, I get it, you're a good ally, you're a great ally, you're spreading the message, you're keeping you're keeping this plight alive and in the news cycle, not making sure people don't forget, you're making sure the resources are being shared, how you can help, all this sort of stuff. But let's not confuse that for actually being on the front lines, for actually having people within your family pass away and stuff, for actually affecting you in your real life. Like, let's not conflate feeling something and also being there on the front lines doing something. Like, and also, come on, waving a fucking flag, like a scarf, come on, let's relax a little bit. But I do like some of the posts from these other platforms or the other organizations, such as Safe Only Limited, which is an organization, I guess, that helps to work with clubs to provide something close to a safe space, or people training in terms of how they can deal with certain communities that go to these clubs and make sure they deal with them with a certain level of sensitivity and whatnot. And they have declared that they are cutting off their communication or relationship with E1 from this moment onward, which is a big deal, I'd imagine, because that's probably a big contract for them. So the fact that they are putting their principles, their morals, their political leanings at the front and center, and really kind of, basically letting that affect their pocket, it says a lot about them and how much I rate them, that they would be willing to do that, because I'm sure this is probably going to cost them a bunch, but they can't in good conscience supply support or work with E1 knowing that one of their founders was part of IDF. So I really do respect Safe Only for putting out the statement. The statement they put out says as follows: the struggle for liberation has many fronts. We are in full support of our friends at Club Verboten and recognize and appreciate the huge amount of work they have done to protecting and advancing our interpersonal freedoms. We remain opposed to the state of Israel and its brutal occupation of Palestine, and are committed to taking action to end occupation, however we can. Our actions here are continually evolving in co-creation with the Safe Only team. This is core to our practice as a collective that exists to affect change across many different liberty fronts in recognition of the joint struggle. We also committed to ensure safe, intuitive working environments for our team that allowed them to work with integrity, pride, and confidence. We believe that cancelling our work with E1 was the right thing to do given the revelations about the owner. We look forward to working with Club Verboten again in a new venue. So I love that, again, cutting them off, that hey, even if it's going to hurt us, we're not going to work with them anymore because it doesn't line up with our morals, our principles, and our worldview. And that is that. I fucking respect it. I love to see that sort of stuff. But I'm wondering going forward what some of these other events are going to do. Like, what are they going to do? And I'm wondering what our punters going to do, because I think there's a lot of pressure on promoters more so to make a to make a stand, especially if you were pro-Palestine and anti-Zionist, anti-Israel. You were out here saying all these big things and going and taking part in the protests and the marches and stuff. This is when it really matters, though. Do you know what I mean? Are you really gonna stand? Are you really gonna stand on business? Yes or no? So I'm curious to see what some of these promoters are going to be doing for some of these forthcoming events coming up. Like, will they make a stand and also cancel their events? Will it be the DJs canceling first, at least the events getting cancelled? But I think most punters won't care. That's the real truth of the matter. Most people that go to these events aren't going to give a shit. They're not into the weeds as much as I am with this sort of stuff. They just go to see certain DJs. They go to see for certain parties, but they don't really care about all the other background stuff that's happening. Because again, this, even though this is on a public platform, I think most people outside of the, I guess the nerdier chin stroking side of things that I'm involved in don't really know about any of this sort of stuff. So I've got a feeling that most likely the E1 will still have a bunch of people in there, right? They've got parties here with Kabosi happening soon. They've got a party here with Panpor happening soon. We've got a Jimmy Jules and Tricks playing there. We've got Stella Bosi, who's a big influencer online, does a lot of like interesting or funny techno content. She's going to be there. That's going to be crowded. You've got quite a lot of big events. You've got a Sarah Landry event. She's huge. So I think a lot of people are still going to just end up going and not really give a shit. So I wonder if this is actually going to have any real life consequence or effect to E1, or if it's just going to be a bit of chatter online and then it's going to kind of go and kind of leave from there on. I'm curious to see how it kind of works out. I really am curious to see how all of it pans out. So, but I wanted to also check actually their Instagram to see what people are saying. So let's actually check the comments on the Ravers of Palestine stuff. I'll see what the temperature is and what people are saying regarding this crazy revelation about the co-founder of E1. So it's curious to see what they're going to say here. So the owner founder of E1, we saw already. We've got an emoji here from Adonis with a vomit emoji. We know what they mean there. We've got another person saying here, we got Sama Abdul Hadid saying, keep up the good work for dating us. Another person here saying, he was my boss ages ago. This does not surprise me in the slightest. Him and his business partner both celebrated when Netanyahu won years ago at the office. So, Jesus. Yuval resigned as director today. This person says he also resigned at the same time as the other music business, E1 Records Limited. While his recognition speaks for itself, E1 is still an Israeli-owned company. In fact, it has been since 2015, according to the company register. The Israeli Arush Uran is now the only appointed director. It's crucially important to know who owned manages the enterprise. Seeing Yuval's wealth, influence, and his time in the army, there's no doubt that some of his money made it through to businesses will be donated towards the country, Israel, where he so proudly served and today perpetuating atrocities. I can't believe that all these beers, tickets, and mixers and liquors I've purchased in E1 might possibly have landed in Israel and the army. Yeah, exactly. That is really hard to take. Especially if you're, if you're out here fighting for Palestinians on this side of the world, you're protesting, you're sharing things online, resources and stuff, to know that some of the monies that you've spent in that club are gone towards fucking harming the very people that you are trying to actively fight for. That's got to do something to your mental, bro. This post is ridiculous. The previous owner has nothing to do with the venue. Plus, he runs a community based on music lovers. They have no political relationships. You guys are just here to just gain some likes, but nothing is going to happen to the venue. No, there's kind of some truth in this, but I also think it's fairly okay for people to, base their club going decisions on who people are behind the places that they go into and whether or not they align with them politically. I think it's a bit, obviously overall it's a bit lame. I think we should get to the point where clubbing is apolitical, but unfortunately it isn't. It's never not going to be apolitical, right? It's always going to be political. I think people could argue that the genesis of fucking clubbing is intensely political itself. So we're never going to get to a point where it's just like, oh, just care about the music, just dance, man. It's never going to be that. So if that's the case and you are politically active, you should base where you go based on the politics of the club that you go to. If it doesn't align, you are well within your right to say, go fuck yourself and take your money elsewhere. That should be what we should be promoting. It's just a shame that in London we don't have many options, so people are probably going to be forced to keep going there because there's not many clubs here that book the people that they kind of book. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. So you're gonna have to decide: are you going to take the hit on your social dalliances to kind of back your political leanings and support, or are you going to stand on your shit and back the people that you're fighting for and take your money elsewhere? Another one, Friends is a rabbit hole that begins with E1 and ends at Fold. I think this is unfair. I think they already tried to do the whole Fold cancellation thing, and I think the most they could find out was that one of the founders was involved in some sort of some sort of like scam to get money, and then that money was used to buy equipment early on for Fold, which I understand because Pioneer decks, Pioneer don't do discounts. You have to buy everything at fucking retail value or at least cost price. So whatever they had to do to start that club and to build it, I'm for it, even if it was criminal activities. Now the club is fucking one of the best clubs in London, so I definitely do champion doing some level of criminality to go legit, so I'm all for it. But that was the most that they could find, and I think they had like a really, a kind of ill-advised post about what was going on in Palestine, and they closed the comments, but I think that was it. But I think Fold are basically clean, so let's not try to cancel Fold for nothing, to be honest. Let's allow it. E1 has always had the bookiest energy, so somehow doesn't come as a surprise. Absolutely awful place and vibe will not be missed. That's the thing that I say. I've always said, I've been the #1 champion hater of E1. I've always fucking hated it as a club. So it's a shame that it's not being cancelled because it's a shit club. It's instead being cancelled because one of the owners is an IDF fucking soldier, right? I would prefer it people just cancelled it because it was a terrible club. But, you know, people in London don't really have any fucking standards. Anywhere they can go where they can party until 6 a.m. and take their drugs, they'll just go. There's no real fucking discernibility in terms of what makes a good or bad club and stuff. It's a bit nonsense, but what can you do? Have Ravers for Palestine gone to see the victims of the Nova Festival who were all races and religions? Hey, are you boycotting other venues owned by oligarchs supporting Russia or just fixated on Israel? Any of you ever been to Israel or Palestine? This is dumb though. You can't just say because somebody hasn't been to Palestine that they can't fucking fight for their people. Like that's fucking stupid. That's the whole point of having some semblance of humanity, is that you fight for people and you speak up for people even if you don't fucking know them and you're not from there. Another one says Yuval still owns a club under Upspace Holdings, which is the ultimate owner of E1. He owns the studio space too. Creative industry needs to boycott. No, I'm boycotting E1. I've never been, but Unfold has been the best experience for me, to be honest. I heard it wasn't a good club. Yeah, you're not missing anything, to be honest, this person, Elisa. E1 literally was one of the worst clubs ever, in my opinion. They just had some of the best bookings, some of the best parties, but as a club experience, it's fucking awful. Especially the security, man. They're ultimate vibe killers. They're up there with Fabric security, sorry. E1 security and Fabric security are you can swap them basically, and they're the same. Super vibe killers. Eclair Fifi DJ says, I won't miss this space. DJ there a few times, never been, never had a good time. She probably won't be there again after saying that, but she probably doesn't give a fuck, so big up Eclair Fifi. What would have happened if he had gone to fight for a different terror organization? He would not be allowed back in the country. Why is this any different? Very good point. Our discrimination is fascist. Your discrimination is fascist. You want everyone to think your way or no way. I doubt if any of you have ever been to the okay. I guess this is a pro-Israeli stance defense. If you've never been to Palestine, you can't defend Palestinians. Okay, cool. You can't fight for them or advocate for them because you've never been there. All right, cool. It's also funny the most vocal pro-Israeli people are also people who don't live in Israel. You know, that's also the funniest thing about it. The most fucking flagrant and loudest Zionists out there are also people who don't live anywhere near fucking Israel. That's fucking hilarious. It's easy for you to form your opinions with all the sound-sided indoctrination and propaganda you've consumed. The only fight for your survival you've had is when you're ended up in casualty after a night of booze. Woo, okay. If you had to protect your families from fundamentalist terrors, then you would fight and do anything. What, like fucking kill 6-year-olds? Like blow up fucking hospitals? Is that what anything means? Jesus Christ. Not one of you have mentioned the horrors committed to Hamas ISIS October 7th and the innocent Israeli babies and children slaughtered by these barbarians, or the hostages languishing in terror tunnels. You're all one-sided and dim and you can't do the truth. The interesting thing about it is just it's so one-sided. From what I've seen so far, the casualties on the Palestinian side are like over 30,000. Israelis is like, I think about 1,000 something officially from what I've seen online. 30,000 people, 30,000 Palestinians have died. And only like, it's just in the space of how the war started, right? From the time the original attack from Hamas happened at that music festival to now, 30,000 Palestinians have perished. And only 1,000, Israelis have. And here they are saying, you'd never speak about October 7th. It's like, bruh. It's even more depressing if you go on Instagram and you do the geolocation thing and you search places in like, you search Tel Aviv and you search Gaza. You'll see people in Tel Aviv literally on the beach. You see people in Tel Aviv like chilling, walking around, having a great time. And then you go to Gaza geolocation on Instagram and you just see like rubble and like nothing. It's like, it's so depressing. It's like, Jesus Christ. One side is like getting decimated while the other one is just living life like nothing's happening. But if you go back onto the Mixmag article or the Mixmag post about the E1 founder resigning and go to the comments, it's completely different from what you see on the Ravens of Palestine. These people here are very, very pro-Israeli. So someone says here, damn, I really didn't know Mixmag followers are so pro-Israeli. Yeah, exactly. So remember how this all started when Hamas killed people at a music festival? No, just me. So very pro. I didn't, again, I'm surprised again. Maybe the founder, again, this is why I'm shocked by, and I wish people would give me a fucking education about the link that Israeli has, or the history that Israel as a country has with dance music, because it seems like Israelis are everywhere, bro. they've got a really strong, or maybe it's not the Israeli thing, maybe it's more of a Jewish thing. Maybe that's what it is. But there's a lot of pro-Israeli people that are associated with the dance music scene. It's really interesting. Remember when Palestine invaded that music festival and killed all those innocent people that were just listening to music and having a good time? I remember. Another one says here, happy to follow him. Thanks for the service and looking forward to dancing there. Jesus Christ, kosher deals. As for all the ravers, thank you for supporting Nova Music Festival and of the 360 plus ravers who were gang raped and brutally murdered for dancing to the same music you dance to. Music is so unifying. Okay, so I guess they're being a little bit, it's a little bit of sarcasm there. I don't know, sarcasm and you're talking about people being murdered is a bit much, but hey. Another one says here, all these Israelis in the comments comparing, okay, cool. Another one, imagine boycotting a venue owned by someone in the rave community who went to defend his people after 360 of them were murdered, hundreds more injured, many raped, and 40 taken hostage as they were done. They repeat the same thing, innit? The pro-Israeli people have the same thing they keep repeating. But what about everybody else that's died since then? What about the scores of innocent, the thousands of innocent people who've died since that one horrible event that happened in the beginning? What about that then? Is that justifiable? So if they kill 360, you kill 30,000. Is that how you balance the odds? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The rave community should have held an event at the venue to honor and celebrate these people. Wow. That what sort of upside down world are we living in? Another one says, yeah, I'm angry at Israel as the next person, but isn't IDF conscription compulsory for Israelis? Would he have oh, come on, you can shut up, you idiot. Another one, I went to E1 and had an incredible time. Okay, you're definitely lying. No one goes to E1 and has an incredible time. You might have an incredible time seeing a DJ, but not incredible time in the club. Let's relax. When I was traveling through London, it felt like the authentic London drum and bass, which basically means no black people, isn't it? Drum and bass is like white jungle. Authentic London, white. What a shame that based on one person's background and service to their country, they lose their job. You can't conflate one person's actions of their country. It's not conflation when you see them dressed up in fucking combat gear with a fucking AK-47 and shit. Come on, bro. It's truly ironic to see ravers taking the side of a group that murdered a bunch of ravers. But you then also, you also probably murdered ravers. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? You guys murdered more people than they've ever murdered. Remember, this could have all been ended if they just gave the hostages back, but that would make too much sense. As if they think it's going to end because of the hostages coming back. Come on, man. The Zionist regime is working overtime on its thread. Anyone also cringe at Zionist comments? The racism and pure misindication of comments is sickening. The UK should stop worrying about the Free Palestine. Amazing how one day Hamas is deemed a terrible organization and next is humanitarian one. Music industry is no place for divide when the sole purpose of the rave is to unite the world in lights and lasers. Okay, shut up, you idiot. Kumbaya, motherfucker. Another one says, so you wouldn't post about the massacre at the Nova Festival, but you post about this. Come on. Still boycotting it. Big up one man, legend. We love him. Still boycotting it. Trash of a venue anyway. Agree with him on that one. Another person says, okay, and Hamas killed so many members of the dance community on October 7th. Honestly, these pro-Israeli people have the same fucking thing. They just repeat all the time. October 7th, October. There's many things that have happened since October 7th, brothers. Bro was slaughtering Palestinian children to big room psytrance. How disgusting. He's been hounded out by this hatred. Hamas commits rape and murder against innocent people at a music festival, and the result is that a medic who goes to Israel he's a medic. You think this guy was a medic? You think this guy went there to fucking give people paracetamol and administer first aid? Is that what you think? Really? Is that what you think? You think this guy was there to be a medic? Really? Come on, bro. Let's be real. Hamas commits rape and murder against innocent people at a music festival. The result is that a medic who goes to Israel to help the sick and the injured is target of hate crime madness. We must speak out against this madness. No, mate, we must speak out against fucking dog shit owners of dog shit clubs who do dog shit things and then put the whole dog shit club into disrepute. Because many people now have to suffer off the back of it, right? The club will probably end up shutting down or changing ownership, which would then affect people's ability to feed their family. So his own fucking selfishness and his own narcissism and his own psychopathy and his own fucking bloodlust has now led to people fucking losing their jobs. Another one here, oh, it's a black person. Bring the hostages home. Rah, there's black pro-Israelis. Shit, I didn't know they existed. There's black Zionist. Okay. Israel intelligence knew that October Festival would be a target a year in advance. A whole year. Cool. I wish you lot success. Support my friend. The most frequented club. I'll never go again. Now I know this. I stand with the IDF, most moral army in the world. Moral armies. What does that even mean? That's an oxymoron in itself. A moral army is like fucking ethical cocaine. It doesn't make sense. Shitty venue anyway. Maybe Ravens for Palestine should organize a rave in Gaza to feel better. What a bunch of... How does that... This whole... Anyway, whatever. We've read most of it. E1, will it suffer? Will it come to a shuttering end? Most likely not, because most people don't care about this sort of shit. This is mostly stuff that I care about when you're super involved and in the weeds with this content and with this shit when it comes to dance music. But I think most people outside of my little bubble don't really care and would rather just go and rave and hear fucking Sarah Landry drop some of her fucking big hits on the fucking dance floor, go to some of their favorite DJs play, go and see fucking, who we see here? We got Adana Twins playing soon. We got a Teletech party happening that's going to be pretty big, I'd imagine. We've got a Berlin and London party happening with someone called Bianca Banks. We've got a Disco Express event happening with Dan Swindle, Kobalsi playing very soon. We've got Georgia Aguili playing, who I don't know who that is. So many big people playing, so most likely no one will care. It'll move on. Everything will be as same as it was before, and it'll continue, and it'll be exactly the same thing, and it won't fucking change a single thing. That is the unfortunate nature of the game and the industry that we're in. What can we do? What can we do? Anyway, my friends, it's been the Action Zinger Show, episode number 749. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to have your company as per usual. If you've enjoyed the show and you've seen what you like what you've seen, please make sure you leave me a 5-star review on all the podcasting apps out there that you listen to, right? There's podcasting apps such as the Apple Podcasts. There's obviously Spotify. They have a one as well that you can listen to. There's many platforms that you can go on and leave me a 5-star review on the pod, right? It's not that hard to do. Just go on your podcast app, click the base where you leave a review and leave me a review, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on fucking Spotify. Do that. Leave me a 5-star review. Let people know that you're enjoying the show on that fucking audio side of the platform. That'd be so much appreciated. I'd absolutely love it. I'd absolutely love it if you could do that. So please make sure that you do. It's not that difficult. It will take you 2 minutes. If it is that difficult, just do it anyway because you fucking love me. All right, just do it because of the LOV space ME of me. That's all I flipping ask of you. If you're watching via the audio or the video side of the pod, you won't see anything else. You just see it fade to black. So make sure that you kind of tune in for that one. My tune of the day will also be playing very soon here. For those of you listening to the audio side of the podcast, you hear my tune of the day playing. So please make sure you hear that playing out here soon. But I'll see you guys again very soon. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to have your company. Peace out. Take care, my friends. Bye.